本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, internet? It's not Monday. It's Tuesday. We couldn't record on Monday. We couldn't do it. Indigenous Peoples Day.
Tuesday, please.
Sorry, it's What's good, internet? It's Day, October 15th, 2019.
So that's what's good. We solved it.
We solved it.
Asked and answered. That's been Waypoint Radio.
Your Honor, that's it. We're wrapping up shop. I know we had a lot of questions recently what the future was. We figured out what's good is to do. Day is here. Waypoint Radio, episode 271, Boston Walker. That was Rob Zachney coming to us from Boston, outside of Boston, with games he can't talk about. We were
Redacted City.
Redacted City. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Blacked out. The black helicopters are circling to make sure that Rob Zachney doesn't talk about any of the games he's playing. These embargoes are strict. Shh, no impressions.
I honor them. The vault is sealed.
Until some future date. Hopefully. We are in the embargo zone for sure. Patrick, are you also in the embargo zone? Are you playing anything right now you're not allowed to talk about?
My lungs are embargoed from functioning at the moment. I don't know when that embargo lifts. My 6 degrees of just I've not been this sick in I've been very fortunate. So like my mom, horrible immune system, just like sick all the time. You feel terrible. It's just like one germ in the air gets to her and boom, 2 weeks of just feeling miserable. My dad, sort of person just who, gets sick. I'm just going to go to sleep, wake up, good to go. And that has largely been me, the sort of thing where like, I feel something coming. All right, let's batten down the hatches. Vitamin C all day, every day. We're going to drink like 2 gallons of water. We're going to bed at 7:30 and like just gonna knock this thing out. And usually my body's been very good at that. And this last week was just not it. I had right up to the edge, 102.6. I was like, I don't know. I'm so close to having to go to the hospital. I don't want to do it.
That's right there, dude.
Jeez. It's 103. It's 103.
Is
the line? Yeah. So didn't quite get there, but had a nasty temp that just like there was a night, some things happened to some sheets that I thought about just throwing them out. I don't know if you can clean these after what happened.
Throw them out. Throw them out.
Yeah. Just Velveteen Rabbit that shit.
I feel like it was just like, is the bye week, the sins of Mitch Trubisky they were just going through you, soaking through my body right into those sheets. And I'm on the other side and coughing. You know what? I would cough happily for the next 3 weeks, then feel the way like. I didn't realize how different 99, 100, 102 was. Like, I know, I was like, of course, it's got to feel worse. But as I would literally feel my body boiling up, I'm like, at a certain point, it became like 6 days in, it was like, yeah, that's 102. Yeah, I can feel that. Like, I know that's a distinct 102.
Wait, so were you going through waves during the day of different, like, at noon, you'd be 101, and at 7 p.m., you'd be 102? Like, you were on day 5?
The ways mine were spiking was in the morning and in the evening. And so I'd get these frustrating portions where...
Convenient times.
Yeah, just enough to, like, put in the labor and then feel like crap when you get some time to yourself and have to take care of a child. But it'd be the kind of thing where... And sometimes I'd go off medicine for a while because I wanted to see like what what I actually was supposed to be feeling, see if I was getting any better, or for like the ceiling of my temperature was going down and all. And I'd be like, cool, I'm good. And then I'd like me and my wife would be sitting like watch something, and I'm like, all right, I'm feeling a little funky. And I'm like, okay. Like 45 minutes later, I'm like, whoa, I don't like that. And I'd be like, oh, that's 100. And then I'd like feel a little funkier, and I'm like, I'd bring the thermometer out, put it in, like, yeah, that's 101. It's like, I didn't need that thermometer at a certain point. Like, I could just ride that wave. And 102 is just then going around the house shaking.
God. You're making me scared of this season because I normally get it bad once.
Wasn't a flu. Wasn't a flu.
What was it?
Was not a flu.
What was it?
We don't know. I went to I looked up like how long temp bad, right. And it was like 3 days, go get checked out. And I was like, all right, so day 4 I went and got checked out, and did all the tests, like, do you think you have pneumonia, blah, blah, did all that. And even did like a flash flu test, and came back negative. And they're like, well, you don't sound like you're dying, but you feel like you're dying, but you don't have the flu. So come back in 3 days if you still feel like shit. And I'm like, okay.
Some sort of virus, some sort of something.
Some sort of
Who
virus.
knows?
Some sort of virus.
Yeah, that hit me last year. I remember now. I was out for like 3 or 4 days in a row, plus a weekend, where it was just like, I don't know what this is, but even I, who am notoriously bad about like getting shit checked out, went and got it checked out just in case it was pneumonia.
Damn.
And it was like, it was not pneumonia. It was not the flu.
Yeah.
They put me on some viral shit, and it was just like, all right, good luck, have fun.
It's harder to be lazy about it these days due to like the sheer proliferation of like urgent cares.
Yes, that's exactly
that, like
it.
did not exist like when
I
I was growing up.
walked
Like
past one
where
on my
now it's just
way.
like literally it's
Yes.
it's down the street from me. Like you don't have to get an appointment at a doctor. If you can go during the day, you're probably only gonna wait like 20 minutes. Like just go.
Corporate consolidation is bad, but the expansion of services that you can get done at CVS is good.
Well,
Like
it's a window
being able
into
to like
a
walk across
world.
the street.
Right. It's a window
Yeah.
into a world where these services are provided by our tax money instead of by private companies. And like, yes, that convenience could be right there. And we could have trains that connect one urgent care center to another. The beautiful socialist dream. It's right there. God. Ricardo Contreras. Cado is also here with
Hi.
us. Hi, Cado. Are you either under embargo or sick?
Neither.
Good.
I'm in the danger zone with being sick though.
Wait, what's that
Christina's
mean?
real sick.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But also, he's got that destiny fever.
Yeah. What you just told me is I'm sick now.
Consult your
No,
physician
not yet.
if symptoms persist outside the launch window. They probably won't.
Oh,
Wow.
we are in a close proximity situation.
Yeah.
We're in a locked room.
Uh-huh.
It's
I'm
red in
fine.
here.
I'm
yeah, but you could
fine.
be a carrier. You don't know.
I
Yo.
plead the fifth.
God damn it. God damn it.
Is that how that works?
I
Yeah.
think so.
If you plead the fifth, you can't
So-
carry any disease. What's up, Rob?
I know Soderbergh made the better, like more authoritative, like global pandemic movie, but goddamn, it is not as scary as Outbreak. Outbreak scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was the bit of it that was the scariest?
That was the monkey one,
yeah,
right?
that was the
Yeah, it was fast moving. That entire like small town, just like everyone's
Instantly.
getting obliterated by and then they're like, we have to drop this thermobaric bomb on this to kill the virus. And
Yeah.
it comes to a pretty bad ending.
Yeah.
I did prefer the version where Lizzie Bennett saves the world, but
God damn it. God. How's everyone doing in terms of games they can talk about this week? I know, again, Rob, you're in the passenger chair today. You waggled your eyebrows at me as if to communicate something. But I don't know what it was. I couldn't even translate it if I wanted to. So mysterious, the visage of Rob Zachney. My favorite gothic horror novel, The Visage of Robert Zachney. We're just riffing here today. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just gotta
It's a
riff.
hot mic today.
We're just, I wish it was. I wish it
that
were.
story is definitely just like a Telltale Heart thing. Where
Oh,
like,
yeah.
My face is just my face, and you are just convincing yourself that I'm up to no good.
Or that you've seen through me.
Damnable visage betrayed nothing with malign intent.
Yes.
If there was any sort of like short horror story involving Rob Zachney, there would be something in his speakers that he would
true.
hear at
You would
night.
hear it.
Like a telltale heart, but it's
the
some sort of like subwoofer coming out of his magic speakers.
I disconnected you. I have a woofer stack now. Why are you back?
Now we're slipping towards like Stephen King, like the name you named your subwoofer like Shelley, and now it is
That's the name of the
the
book.
name of the book is Shelley. Yeah. God.
Was it Christine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christine. Wait, Christine is the car?
Car, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Christine's the car, and then Stephen King. Because I watched half of it in a fever dream last week. Was it the Mangler? Is the one where the like the steam press comes to life?
Shut the fuck up.
in the
Excuse
factory.
me?
What?
The
Yeah, it's a Tobe Hooper joint.
Hold on,
buddy.
Hang on. I need to I need to
Do we
call
need to watch
time.
a trailer
that's
for the
not
Mangler?
The Mangler
Patrick.
is not a Stephen King story.
That was my
Is it not?
question.
Yeah, I
that
thought.
was my question.
Oh, I thought it was a Steve. I thought it was a
Oh,
Stephen
it
King
is.
story.
It is. Okay, well, we were. I'm lost now. You framed it like it was a
Wait.
Stephen King thing, but then you were like, oh, it's some
It is.
schlocky '70s movie, and so then
It is.
Well, okay, so it's both. Rob, I'm
it's a
right
short-
I
there.
know
It's a
Stephen King's written a lot of stories, but I just didn't figure him for the what if a steam press was haunted.
I didn't know that he was like horror Pixar. You know what I mean? I didn't get what if Cars. Oh, I did
The
Cars.
film is based upon the Stephen King short story of the same name.
Okay. Well,
The Mangler.
the Mangler.
Can we? You know
Yeah,
what?
link me the Mangler. That's- you know what? It's Hot Mike Mornings.
let's
Let's
just go.
get it.
You know what?
You know what it is? It's Tuesday. This isn't Monday energy. This is Tuesday morning energy. Shout out to Indigenous Peoples Day. We got some
Yeah.
Tuesday morning. We got some Tuesday
Hell
morning
yeah.
energy in here. A friend of
Okay,
mine.
man, you know what? I need to subscribe to this YouTube channel to pull this up. Shout outs to Shitflix,
Oh, wow.
a YouTube channel with
Are we sure about that
4.86K subscribers, which is about to shoot up after this ringing endorsement that has done absolutely no investigations as to whether they're a problem. But look, the classic descriptions for movies like The Mangler in 1995, like a laundry folding machine is possessed by a demon from hell, you know? Just
Yeah.
right to the
Let's
point.
do Robert Englund's
Good.
in this movie. So
Wait, they invented a laundry folding machine?
God damn it.
Wait, those
Look,
things
Steve-
existed?
Stephen King's imagination knows no bounds.
That thing would be evil. Because it's just too good. That's
that's
cursed. That's a cursed
called-
knowledge.
A Mangle.
What?
The Thing.
Are you
Yeah.
Kidding
That
me.
is called a Mangle.
That's where
All right.
Mangle.
Are we
mangling?
singing up watching the
Yeah,
Mangler
we're gonna
trailer?
sync up
Are
and
we
watch.
gonna do
Yeah,
this?
sorry. Let's watch the Mangle. Okay, I'm apologizing. Everyone at home, get ready. I'll do a count. The Mangler 1995 trailer from Shitflix on YouTube, Patrick.
Well, that's not the production company. It was New Line put out the movie.
Yeah, well. All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Home video.
New Line home video, straight to video.
There's a little bit of me in that machine, and a little bit of it in me.
Whoa!
What?
The director of Poltergeist.
Excuse
Yeah,
me?
man.
And today, the worst one I've ever seen.
Is that?
Just put her hand in there.
Machine
Yeah,
might
she-
be haunted.
Shut the fuck up. The machine is not haunted.
That machine killed your daughter. We all have to make sacrifices. Sacrifices. A demon is a kind of electricity.
Shut the fuck
Sometimes it gets out of control.
That's actually a good line.
Yeah.
A demon is a type of electricity is not
Modern
bad.
masters of horror have just created the ultimate machine for terror.
That's like another famous Scream, right? That one that's playing.
That's definitely a.
Wilhelm?
That's not Wilhelm. That's a different. I think that's a different one. What?
Where's there fire?
Mangler.
What?
Just don't go near it.
I'm gonna be
Just
honest. That didn't look good.
that was bad.
It's not good, but it's good. So movies like that was underscored the backbone of my Shocktober list, which was I wanted to start getting. I needed like a shtick this year. I was like to fill out like 10 of the movies, and I was once we had our conversation about Death Spa, I had like a aha moment. It was like, oh, I want to like watch a lot of movies this year that are about like really straining the bounds of reality and finding inanimate objects that should not murder you, finding ways to murder you, which is how I got Death Spa, The Mangler, and a bunch of other flicks on that.
So wait.
The Mangler is so good because the overacting is tremendous. And it's like, you're like, oh, the guy who directed Poltergeist, like one of the best horror films of all time. Like,
Yeah.
he could take a silly premise and do something interesting with it. No, but it's still super good because it's hyper violent in like the most, like the ways this machine kills people is just unbelievable.
Have you seen
It
the
is-
sequels yet? There's 2 sequels.
No. I have not.
There's The Mangler 2 and The Mangler Reborn,
Of course.
which maybe that's a reboot. A decade after the original
See,
massacre.
I would love.
Yeah.
Let's make one of these today, where like who's the modern day Peter Falk? Who gives that energy? Like, I want a
people.
woebegone, slightly shabby OSHA inspector to be like this thing's greatest rival. Like, you invert it, right? It's like the murderous industrial machine, but this time it's like OSHA's here, and it's like what Jamie Lee Curtis has become to Michael Myers.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, you look at the Mangler 2 because I did.
The Mangler 2, also known as the Mangler 2 Graduation Day, is a 2002 film, which, let's point out, like, you know you're in some deep into the horror shit when you're watching a direct-to-DVD sequel that came 7 years after. They're just like, I don't know. You want this? You want to do this? A 2002 film
starring
and a direct-to-video sequel to the well, of course it stars Lance Henriksen because the man will show up to anything, and I respect him for it.
Yeah, good.
He was also in Hellraiser 8, the one where, similarly to this film, as we'll get to, involves a computer network for reasons unknown. The Mangler 2 is based on a short story. While the original was about a demon-possessed industrial laundry machine, this film places the demon in a private school's computer network where it manifests as a destructive computer virus with some of the same abilities as a Ouija board.
Some, not all.
Yeah, let me be clear. The Mangler 2.0, it's no Ouija board. But
it lies flat.
Yeah.
It's got letters.
It's got them.
Does the thing move? Nope, that's the one thing we couldn't do.
Watching the trailer, and for a second here, a wireframe face showed up and it said Hacker Girl Chat. Sorry, Hacker Gal Chat. Love it.
You know what? I gotta read this. Joe, this is the last line from the plot summary on Wikipedia. Joe later went on spring break in Europe. The camera shows her getting a call from her father. After her phone call ends, a strange and familiar message appeared on the screen of Joe's cell phone saying, "You've been mangled."
Shut up.
Which means that the virus is still alive.
The virus is still out there. Well, that explains how
You've been mangled.
Is that how it got reborn in 2007 or whatever?
Oh my god.
God.
It's like a prank show catchphrase or some shit.
You got mangled. Well, now we got to complete the trilogy.
The Mangler Reborn.
The directors,
This
the
one,
two directors intended
2005.
intended it to be a rebirth of the film franchise. While with the film not requiring viewers to have seen the prior two films. Thank God. The deep Mangler lore was too much for me to keep up with.
The movie takes place after the events in the first film and follows Hadley, a repairman that purchases the possessed machine from the first movie. Oh, so they're going the classic.
Yeah,
you don't have to reboot it. You just pick up the continuity later and do a pseudo reboot. The possessed machine from the first movie becomes obsessed with the machine. Hadley awakens the machine with his blood, and after being, quote, the summary here puts it in quotes, eaten by it. What is there a question of whether he was eaten?
Well, he seems to be. So I'm watching the trailer for this, and I will say this is a slasher flick. This is whatever happens with him changes him into like a killer for the machine,
accomplice,
where he is feeding other people to it. It looks like he's going around and doing the Seymour thing of feeding the big monster. You know what I mean?
DVD Talk panned the film, criticizing it as a, quote, a formless, meandering, and stunningly boring little turkey, end quote.
A little turkey.
The little one.
I love that. I love calling a movie a little turkey. God.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I think I kind of feel what it means.
I mean, a turkey's a thing, right?
Yeah, that movie was a fucking turkey.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. No, legitimately.
It feels like it could be a thing.
I used to have a live journal called, what was it called?
Don't put this out there.
I'm not gonna.
Don't.
Keep going, Cado.
Actually,
keep going.
I'm not gonna figure out.
Yeah,
but
the Internet Archive is not a thing.
Yeah.
It had turkey in the name.
It was about
fun.
movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, turkey's a bad movie, basically.
Gotcha.
A real stinker.
A turkey.
A turkey.
Why?
I don't know. But that was one of the things I learned from my film classes in high school.
What's the etymology there?
I don't know, because
Probably 'cause it
isn't
don't
turkey
fly.
a good thing in
'Cause they
bowling?
don't fly.
Oh.
That's pretty good. But other birds don't fly. You could have called it a chicken. Could have called it an ostrich. I kind of like calling a movie a fucking ostrich. Head in the fucking sand. Ass movie.
One that
Also,
fucking
rather
hints
troublingly,
at.
turkeys do fly.
Do they?
Like they have a reputation for not flying,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
you realize they can fly and they're way more capable than you previously thought.
might
And then you realize they're territorial.
Right.
And
Oh God.
which is why I think Thanksgiving just kind of suggested itself.
Yeah.
That's okay. So that actually is a
That exists, right?
a short film by notorious shitbag Eli Roth.
That dude
and,
sucks.
Yeah, that dude sucks. And he kept trying to make a full feature out of. It's actually a pretty decent like schlocky trailer. But
Wait, was
dude
that
sucks,
was
so
that the
don't
trailer
watch it.
in Grindhouse?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
In the
right.
between the two movies. Yeah.
I tried to find out why they're called this, but all I found was a story or a post here on movies.com that says that basically is a long article that is around this thesis. Stop calling movies turkeys. Both filmmakers and turkeys deserve greater respect, and here is why. And
Finally,
it just keeps
someone's
going.
standing up for the turkeys.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So
Look, they got
You know, this
positive
weekend I had to watch
representation in
Days of
bowling.
Thunder.
Wait, what?
I need two different things. So yes,
Sorry.
positive turkeys are good in bowling. That's the end of that thought.
Yeah.
Agreed. What did you say about Rolling Thunder, Rob?
Days of Thunder.
Days
had to
of
watch
Thunder.
it this weekend.
Because of racing? Just because it was that for a weekend?
Because Drew Scanlon and Daniel Dwyer and I do a podcast, and one of the things we sometimes do is movie podcasts, and there's not many racing movies.
No.
So inevitably, at some point, you're going to be watching Days of Thunder. And sadly, this was like my fourth or fifth time watching Days of Thunder.
Ooh.
And that's probably more than you need to watch Days of Thunder. But at the same time, there I was having a nice long weekend, spending it taking like 5 pages of notes on Days of Thunder.
What's
A
Days of
movie
Thunder?
that
It's a Tom Cruise racing vehicle from the 1990s.
A racing vehicle?
You know what I mean.
they
A Tom
so
Cruise vehicle that is about racing.
No, but it's good.
I know. I didn't mean
Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson had just made Top Gun, and they were like kind of the gods of Hollywood for this one moment, and they were like, what should we do next? And they had the idea we should just make Top Gun again, but with NASCARs. And so you got Days of Thunder.
It's very dramatic. Should movies be called turkeys? As we've already established, turkeys are friendly, sociable creatures. Most live relatively short lives, during which they are fed
That's
until they are
bullshit.
fat, so they can be slaughtered for the enjoyment of families across the nation. And the movies reflect the combined efforts of dozens, if not hundreds of people, who are all trying their best to make entertainment and or art that may then be slaughtered by critics for the enjoyment of their readers. In other words, movies and turkeys have a lot in common. And both deserve more respect than they usually receive. So let's retire the idea of calling movies turkeys. Its purpose has been served. Instead, let's celebrate the achievements of birds and filmmakers by enjoying Thanksgiving dinner and then
Achievements.
watching more movies. Thank you. Movies.com. Peter Martin. I played a video game.
Turkeys have achievements.
Yeah.
Turkeys achieve shit.
Yeah.
I guess in Peter Martin's
Yeah.
view, it's getting eaten,
Right.
which is not
That's not.
an achievement.
So the one thing I'll say there though is that turkeys do have a reputation for being like nastily territorial.
Yeah.
Like
They'll fuck you up.
the thing is like if turkeys like decide your like some part of your property is in fact their property, that is no longer up for debate. Like that is just you don't go near there anymore
No,
because
yeah,
like a
it's
turkey
their
will
property.
come flying. Yeah, pretty
Counterpoint,
much.
it's their property.
Yeah.
Good luck.
No, I mean like they have every right to it.
Yes, at
But I
least
am
as much
saying-
as me. Yeah.
Right, but this notion that you and the turkey are going to like come together and like
And
we're
be
not so
friends.
different, you and I.
No.
And yeah, that's not happening.
Right.
What game did you play, Austin?
Speaking of things that snarl and are territorial, I played Disco Elysium, a new RPG.
Oh, I am fascinated to hear
It
what you
is an
thought about this
interesting game. So I've not put a lot of time into it. I've probably put a couple of hours in. I will say I played
game. A game that they regularly brag about, saying it will take you 60 hours to finish, like has been a consistent part of their marketing in a very strange.
Didn't I also see something about the Chapo guys being in
the
it?
Chapo.
Yes.
Yes, the Chapo guys are in it. It is snarling in. I mean, I could give you so many different versions of this story. Let me just set up what the game is. It is an RPG. in the style of something like Planescape Torment, an isometric RPG where the draw or the thing that's going to make you stay away is the writing, the world building, the characterization. It is a very written game. This is not a game that like devolves into combat turns. Like, I don't know that I could probably play 10 hours of this game without being in any sort of combat situation. I believe all of the combat is dealt with the same basic skill system that the rest of the game is driven by, which is all through kind of dialogue options that are like, then there are dice rolls associated with it. There's not like, I don't think I'm going to be getting to like turn-based tactical combat or anything like that.
Like you're choosing like dialogue option, fire gun.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Like,
and
event
then
occurs.
and then event occurs, and there's like animation and stuff. There's like super not the focus of the game in any way. Instead, it feels like it's coming from a history of very talky RPGs, some tabletop influence, and then adventure gaming, like traditional PC adventure gaming. In that, there's like that style of like, well, to open up the thing, go get the key from the sky, etc. It takes place in I believe I would say, I think the year 2050 something. It's the 50s, but it's not the 50s. It's in a city state that has been, okay, actually I'm gonna rewind because I want to like really sell you the way this game sells itself, which is you turn on the game, you launch the game, you create a character. The character creation stuff is like you either pick one of three archetypes, which is like someone who's like a hard ass who is like tough and strong, good at doing physical stuff, someone who's like emotional, or someone who's like smart, like intellectual. You can also create your own character from which is basically you putting points into four different skill, like overall like kind of skill categories, which is like I'm intellectually smart, I'm emotionally smart, I'm physically tough, or I'm physically dexterous. And then you can pick one of the like 6 skills that are in each of those things. Those skills range from I'm good at picking pockets and unlocking things to there's a skill called Inland Empire, which is about like being aware of the weirdness in the world. There's a skill for being empathetic. There's a different skill for being a good liar called like dramatist or something. And those are one of those is intellectual, one of those is emotional. You build a character, you start the game. The screen is black. You get this like very serious voiceover that begins spouting sort of, at its best, I would say like Grant Morrison style dialogue at you. Grant Morrison's a comics writer who's been very influential from the UK, who has like a very tortured, magical, like surreal prose style. When he's like completely.
What are some of like his notable?
For
like,
me, the things that this is hitting is a book called The Invisibles. He did a book that I like a lot called Seven Soldiers of Victory. He's done a lot with DC over the years. He was in charge of a couple of like big major DC events in the last decade. I'm trying to think, what is like the crossover Grant Morrison hit for you?
He was in that one My Chemical Romance video.
Was he?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay. The thing that I think I would recommend you read from him, and I wish this was maybe a little bit more about, is All-Star Superman.
Sure, yeah, I've always heard that as the touchstone.
Is a fantastic little thing that is like just very good. And then Doom Patrol, which has a series now. It was based on a lot of people have done Doom Patrol, but the Grant Morrison run, I believe, was like pretty well received.
He did Arkham
Adaptation
Asylum.
is supposed to be.
Yeah, adaptation of Doom Patrol I hear is good. What were you saying, Cado?
Arkham Asylum.
Did he work on the Arkham
He wrote
Asylum?
that.
He did the comic.
Oh, the comic.
The comic Arkham Asylum.
Okay.
Yeah.
which is
I
super
really
different.
Yeah, I really like him for his non-superhero stuff that came before that, basically. Regardless, it is this sort of like the opening stuff is like you are in a void, and like I'm now going to do a bad approximation of it, right? Like I'm not trying to. You're in a void and there's nothingness here. Do you want to stay in this nothingness, or do you want to, feel something? And you get this 5-minute long sequence of your limbic system coming on and your sensations returning, and this very tortured purple prose about the sense of reality flooding in, and oh no, would you rather stay in the dark or face the light and go back out into the harmful day, the painful day? All right, wake me up. I'm up. Oh, you're hungover, you're half naked, you're in a fucked up hotel room. And it is an isometric perspective. You're a grizzled white dude with some huge ass mutton chops. Rob.
Okay, already question.
Yeah.
Is it playing with the notion that it opens in that sort of pretentious, heavy-handed prose, and then lights come up
to
and
reveal
you're
more
some
pretension?
shitbag in a hellhole? Yeah.
It's both.
Is it sort of playing with
at
that?
all
or?
moments, Disco Elysium is come on. It's I'm going to save my particular editorializing for a moment. I mean, I know I'm always editorializing, but
But it's very meta.
It's very meta, and both to its strength and also often to its detriment. What becomes clear as you start to pick up your clothes from around the room and fail the skill check to get your tie off the fucking ceiling fan and take morale damage because you're not good enough to, or maybe I took physical damage to try to get the thing off, and then go look at yourself in the mirror. It took me 15 to 20 minutes to get out of the room because of how dense the writing was in that space of just the constant interiority of this character. This character is a cop who has, and I'm going to be a little more abstract in terms of the pacing here. You learn over the next 30 minutes, you're playing a cop who is sent to this place to investigate a murder, and who has spent all of the money you were sent with, who has trashed the hotel room you were in, and who has drunk through basically every last penny that you have in booze.
So Waypoint E3.
Waypoint E3, to the degree that you've forgotten who you are, you've forgotten everything about the world, you've gone completely amnesiac in every regard. You have light thoughts about who you are now and then, and those, in general, all of your thoughts come in the voice of the many skills you have. So you have 25 different skills, and those skills are you're a pickpocket, you're a living encyclopedia, you are, again, Inland Empire is the one of them. Those speak to you in the dialogue box and are the things that prompt you to go down different paths. So it's you have
as characters?
Yes, with little portraits, absolutely.
So I am the thief and I'm whispering to you
yes.
just steal it.
Just steal it. Yeah. Or you could just get into there. It's not devil on your shoulder. It can be devil on your shoulder, but it's just as often oh, you recognize that name. That's the name of that famous philosopher, because you have enough points in. There are these kind of passive skill checks that are firing off all the time that open and close options to you. It's sort of like we talked about NeoCab a few weeks ago that are that had a thing where it was whatever your emotional state was would open or close possible dialogue options. And that's the same thing here, where it's if you only have a 1 in encyclopedic shit, you're never going to have the knowledge that that this person is gesturing towards this war that happened, and so you're not going to have the ability to be oh yeah, you're talking about that war, and that might open up another dialogue option, or you might not even have enough to say what are you talking about, because it's clear your character's interest in that shit isn't there. All of this is a constant, in the middle of every conversation, passive failure, passive success, and then also active skill checks as you're talking to people to be hey, I'm going to try to intimidate you. Here's you have a 40% chance of success to try to intimidate this person. You click that button to do it. If you succeed or fail, the conversation continues at that point. And if you failed, most of the time you can try again if you've put more points into that skill and come back later, or learn something else and open up a new possibility for interaction. So your job is to go investigate this thing. You're a fucked up cop who can't remember who he is, who's lost his badge and his gun, and who is trying to put together what this world is and what your place is in it. You get a partner who is another cop who is way more on the straight and narrow. You go and talk to the various people around, the bartender who's at the hotel who's pissed at you for being a shithead. You talk to a couple kids out back where a body has been hanging from a tree for 7 days. It was your job to deal with it, and you just didn't do that. There's a bookstore nearby. There's a shitty racist lorry driver, and all of these things every one of these characters has a 10-minute conversation to begin with them, and have branching dialogue options, have stuff that is like, if you have this skill, you can open up a new branch. But sometimes then you'll hit a dead end. So like I went into the bookstore, and the bookstore lady had a curtain up that hid half of the wall. Half of the store from the rest, like hit like a side alcove. I was like, I'm gonna open this fucking curtain. What's back here? What's behind the curtain? And she got so pissy about, and don't go back behind the curtain. I was like, there's something behind the curtain. I pulled the curtain open eventually, and it was a door locked with like talismans all over it, or like kind of paper charms, like to wards, basically to ward it away. And I was like, I'm gonna open that door. Like, no, you're not. You don't fucking have any way of opening that door, Austin. You're gonna try to run into that door and take physical damage. And so like, okay, well, I'm gonna come back there with a crowbar at some point. When I have a crowbar, I'm going to get in there. So it's a lot of like poking and prodding at things, and trying to see what's going on here. You technically have this job, which is get this body down, figure out who killed it. And the first time I went to the body, I puked my guts out because I did not have the physical stamina to withstand the stint of death, of 7-day-old death. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go and try to get like something to help me with that. You can see where I'm making those Adventure King comparisons. Mm-hmm. All what I'm doing in being abstract here is not talking about the tone and tenor of the game, which is what is going to make or break everyone's time with Disco Elysium. This is a game when at its best, it feels like one of the most interesting and well-developed settings out the gate that I've seen in a computer RPG. I get why you make the comparisons to something like Planescape Torment, a game that has historically been like at a high watermark for feeling like you're in a place with a locale, with real people who have motivations, who are not just background characters, at a weird intersection of the world. Of course, that was like a D&D game, and so also there was all the other D&D stuff. Here, this is a game that takes place in, it seems to be, a near-future real world in a city-state that 50 years before you began had some sort of revolution. It seems like a communist revolution. It seems like the king was killed, maybe. But also now there's 3 communists left. All the communists died at some point. All the revolutionaries and all the revolutionary thinkers have gone down the drain. And now it's just you and me, baby. You, me, and the fucking grime of the earth and the gutters. And it's tough out here for working people, baby. Like, it's just hard out here. If you're someone with ideals, then maybe you got to pull your fucking head out your ass and realize that most of us don't have 2 pennies to scrub together or whatever. It is like the most...
That's the tenor.
Snarling. Like, what they want and what my view of my suspicion is, by hour 50, I will have developed a person who has feelings about the world and is willing to go out on a limb and fight for certain things, or developed a person who is greedy and amoral and has found a way to get ahead in his own small, selfish way.
And I think like the reason this game has always been on my radar, and I was like pressing, we got some codes, like folks like you and
I'm excited
like
to see what
check it out, was
Cam
because
thinks.
their whole like thought was like, look, people are gonna have a character in mind and come out the end with a pretty different character, and the game through like sheer density of writing is supposed to try and support like true role playing, to the point where like part of their pitch, and I'm not sure how much you experienced this, but I know some like streamers like had to stop streaming it midstream because they ran into some pretty blatant racism that like made them very uncomfortable like to be streaming, and we're like, whoa, didn't know. Okay,
like right away. You can like turn the corner and talk to a dude who immediately gets into it with your partner is of Asian descent. I don't know like what particular ethnicity, but immediately there is like the dude is like, welcome to Revichal, which is the name of the place, or Revicol. I forget how to pronounce it. And the guy's like, my people have been here for years and years and years, way before your people were. And I get what you're fucking doing. And immediately that can go down the path where you can start asking him questions about his like race realism and sign on to it if you want to. You're like, oh yeah, that you could.
I was gonna say that specifically, like
yes.
that's what the distinction I wanted to make was that this game, like man, you're playing with fire on this one. But basically, like part of the pitch is like, yo, do you want to just be like a shitty racist?
Yes.
Like,
and it is
clear. Like, we have written it.
It is clear that every step down that path where you're like tell me more about the stuff that makes absolutely no sense. The writers are so above it all. They know that racism is bullshit. They know, like, you know, there's a character in here that is like phrenology taken to the max, where like literally has shit written on his body that says, you know, what his cranial measurements are and shit. It's like clearly poking fun at, but also if you want to just play as the person, the shitty, like, asshole cop in this world, you know what? We can go down that tragic route. And my suspicion is it's tragic. I guess I don't know. My suspicion is by the end of that game, they will do the thing where they frame your downfall and your like complete alliance with all of the worst parts of the world as a bad thing. But they want to enable that potentiality. They also let me play a character who is like an artsy fartsy asshole who is like constantly poeticizing about everything and trying to make connections with like the kid nearby who helps her mom out at the bookstore. And so they're like, okay, there's definitely I want to be all things to all people here. But I think more than anything, the thing that I keep coming back, and also actually there was a specific quote I want to read from one of their own write-ups of the game that I think speaks to this, that I think is immediately you're going to be like, okay, yeah. God. So one of the skill systems in this game, on top of like the main skill trees that I talked about, or skill things that you can put into, where you're like, oh, here's my lock picking, here's my like fist fighting, here's my like deduction skill, my Deduesday skill. There is also this thing called the thought catalog, which certain dialogue options will open up and I will like spark something in your character. And then you can assign something into one of these slots where you'll start working on it like a problem in the back of your mind. So like one of them was like, I had a conversation with someone where I was like, you know, so what do you do after you're done, you know, doing your deliveries for the day? He's like, oh, you know, I go home. I do all this for my family. And I was like, bing, wait a second. Do I have a family? Do I have a home? What's my home like? And basically I got a skill I could start working on in the background as I continue to talk to people. That was about like the sense of loneliness and being far from home, and that would give a certain stat bonus and or penalty in certain types of things, and would open up certain conversations if I filled it. I don't remember what that one did specifically, because I remember the other one's much better. Because I took certain routes in conversations early on. Get ready for two fucking Austin Walker ass things in a row. I got the like try hard feminist thing, and also the like whatever this world's vision of Marxism is, right? There's like a particular philosopher who is like the you know new Marx in 50 years before this all started. And I say try hard feminist because I don't remember the exact phrasing on it, but the way it is framed is like, oh, you're a big boy feminist, aren't you? Okay, I see what you're going to do. The same thing with the communism bit. It was like, oh yeah, all those smart communists 50 years ago gave it their all, and ever since then, everyone realized that big ideals are too dangerous and you know too you know not just risky but unlikely to succeed. But you're the one, aren't you? You're the one who's going to figure out socialism once and for all. You're going to wear that on your fucking sleeve, aren't you? Do you want to go down this path? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Let's go. Let's see what you're doing with this thing. And so you select those things and they go in the back of your mind. And after you've talked to enough people, those become active things that are now like skills that you can choose to have on. You can forget them and try to relearn them with like you can kind of like what's the respec and move those out and slot in new skill sets. And so those things opened up different dialogue options because like I had for instance, because I was against the patriarchy, I got better shit against when arguing against men. Because I'm a communist, entirely new skill like conversational options opened up when dealing with other people of like around questions of labor, around questions of history. So it's like I want to be 100% clear. I believe that this is a game written by leftists. Like it drips with a certain sort of materialist vision of history. It wants so badly for you to understand that this is like disaffected leftists, honestly disaffected, very bougie leftists being like too... Afraid is probably too descriptive. Like I don't know.
Sounds very arch.
It is. That's exactly what it is, Rob. It is like, we all know we're not allowed to have genuine feelings anymore. We see the world for what it is, but we have to be above it all, and we have to be we have to joke at ourselves, we have to poke at ourselves. I'm fine with joking with ourselves and poking at ourselves, but there is such a fear of like the honest and like honestly, truly very risky taking of ideals into yourself here. Everything is an arm's distance away. Everything has to be bitten at. Everything has to be prodded at. And there are these moments of deep humanity in this game where you're talking to people about what their days are, or who they are, or the people that they like. And then there are moments where, because the perspective character is the amnesiac drunk cop, the default perspective, or the perspectives that you see available to you, are like, put it all through this filter of dismissal, or there's lots of like, I'm going to pat the little kid on the head because she's still so naive. She doesn't understand what a hellhole the world is yet. And even the fact that it won't, again, if it's going to be a 60-hour game, I can't speak to hour 30, when maybe by then my character will have developed a selfhood, regardless of what his like political ideologies are, etc., that feels like him. But what I do know is this is the game that wants you to be able to explore any of those things. All of that was building up to the idea of introducing those thought category things. To read this thing from the website that explains these thought category, like inventory items that you can equip, basically. Not all thoughts are created equal. Some have a larger effect on your character, than others. None more than the 4 ideologies and 4 capotypes. Ideologies are as close as Disco Elysium gets to an alignment system. Capotypes are how you view yourself as a police detective. Combine these two, and you can be a socialist superstar cop, or a centrist sorry cop who apologizes profusely. You can also dual capotype, or even mix and match ideologies. This, combined with their choices made in character creation and the rest of the thoughts, make for hundreds of different builds. And like, we've had this conversation a little bit months ago with Outer Worlds, this question of like, what does it mean to open up possibility space? We talked about it a little bit with Eliza. Is that the name of the game that we talked about? Like, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of choices, but it's interested in showing these different perspectives in a way that reveals them all to be complicated and compromised. And it is like, seeing it laid out like this, where it's like, yeah, like if you want to be the centrist cop who bullies everybody, this game will it'll let you do it. And it is a lot, it means taking them on trust that the end of that game is not just like a big high five for that player. Do you know what I mean? And that is where I'm not quite ready to like, I don't know yet. The stuff about the craft of
the game's long as hell. They were part of the pitch, like even getting the codes was like, hey, we don't really expect you to finish this. It's going to be a lot of reviews in progress. Right. It's a game that benefits from multiple playthroughs. Like, look, like anyone that's listened to how you've described it could also easily imagine just one playthrough that even was like meticulous took 80 hours. Like, you're going to miss thousands of hours of dialogue that you like. It's just inconceivable. Like, it is inconceivable. Part of the pitch of the game is that you will not see most of it because it's meant to be like such an individualized path through for a character. But I think in the same way that like we wonder about like the Outer Worlds, it's like, okay, like how do you land your pitch even if along the way. And I haven't played Outer Worlds, so I'm not suggesting that it does this. I'm just saying it's like where you're doing space colonialism. It's like, all right, well, where do you land with your biting satire? Like, do you actually like hit something at the end that makes you go, okay? And this game, you see signs, like there's signs in the air that are like, okay, it's possible. It's possible 100%. There could be something on the other end of this, but no way to know. And to get there is an incredible investment of like time in which you could get to the end and go, oh no, you endorsed a message.
I mean, so I think that there's a degree of endorsing a message in the game design that is a perfectly, it is a message that I'm with, which is like this vision of a place caught in. So the history of this place is there was this revolution 50 years ago. The king gets killed. And this is like me just picking at the stuff I've learned for a few hours. The revolutionists somehow end up out of power. Either I don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't fill in that gap between there were communists 50 years ago and now like there's only a handful left in the whole city. Though there is a strong union, and this is like there's a big strike going on when the game begins. But now the thing that happened apparently is all of the other big nations of the world saw this revolution happen and fell in on it. And we're like, no, like even outside forces that would traditionally be enemies saw this brief moment of hope and like
You have
change.
to crush the commune.
You have to, right. The commune has to be crushed, even from outside forces that would otherwise be not aligned with each other. Everyone fell in. The coalition of everyone else fell in and ruined this one like nation. And it's like, okay, there was a particular politics to that view, right? Like that is absolutely the case. You step out of the hotel. I mean, you talk to the dude downstairs who is like, I cannot believe I have to fucking deal with this cop. And the way he's framed and the way he's written and the way that he is the sympathetic character, there's a politics to that 100%. It is just a game that is like convinced that it can be the game where the perspective character isn't the downtrodden. The perspective character can be the superstar centrist cop, and it can still get its message across about the world, which we do in other formats all the time. Do you know what I mean? We talked about Mindhunter on this podcast a few weeks ago, the second season of which very much still has the perspective characters as like 3 white people, even though the heart of that season is about a black community in Atlanta. So it is. I'm not saying you cannot do it, but it has been very grating in these, in a sense that has been made it really hard to want to connect to this dude. And as a critic, I want to reserve that as a possibility of good art, to want to not feel like you want to connect to the lead. But when it is a game that I have to sit down and put hours into, that can be very hard. At the same time, I spent 25 minutes last night playing this game, walking around a bookstore and just reading all of the dialogue options as I looked at every book in that store, being like, oh, wow, that's a really interesting idea. Oh, cool, here is a map. What's my character remember from seeing the map? Because he remembers some of these maps, but not other ones, because that's how the skill system works. I had an encounter with this kid. So you go to the body and you find this kid throwing rocks at the body, being like taunted or / like egged on by another kid who's behind the like a fence nearby. And you have a series of encounters with that kid. Both of those kids shout homophobic slurs at you, by the way. And the homophobic slur is like staticked out during the voice acting, which is like, even they were like, all right, they said that word, but you don't have to hear it yourself, but also they fucking said it. And it's like, okay, I would love to have heard the internal conversation around that specific moment, right? And the conversations that I ended up having with that kid went from like sour to violent in a bad way to a breakthrough where you were able to connect to this shitty 15-year-old about the life he is living for a brief moment of like real connection that is like, okay, this is interesting. And then it slips away. Do you know what I mean? Like there is such like a coming and going with this game that I'm having right now. That is unlike anything else I played this year, you know, unlike anything I've played in a long time. I also think it's visually really sharp. Like it has such like a painterly, like ugly painterly quality to it. Like it is trying to be messy. It is trying to be overwhelming, sensuous in a way that is like, you know, a bad smell. And I think that they achieve that stuff pretty well. They want to make an ugly thing. It is an ugly thing. And I want to retain the right of artists to make ugly things, especially when the larger purpose is something like the ugliness builds to something. But it's also just like, I don't know if I trust it to do that build yet. Talk to people who've maybe put more time into it. There's lots of critics who I love, like Andy Kelly over at RPS. I think is Andy Kelly at PC Gamer or RPS at this point?
I thought it was PC Gamer.
Okay, maybe it was PC Gamer.
Yeah.
You're right, it is PC Gamer because I also looked at an Andy Kelly tips guide to this game on PC Gamer. Andy Kelly really likes this game. Lucy O'Brien seems to really like this game. Like people who I respect in this industry have put some time into it and have come away being like, wow, there is something here. But I am cautious of being wowed by prose, by the fact that there are like good adjectives in this game. You know I love adjectives. You know I love proper nouns and places and shit like that. But there's a degree to which a friend of mine, an internet friend of mine, Paris, aka from the Kotaku articles he's been quoted in, a progressive anime fan on Twitter, is famous for me in my own like famous lines catalog for just saying that it's not that Riverdale looks good, it's that it looks expensive. And so I almost feel the same way about the writing in this game. It's not that I don't know that it's good writing. I know that it's like a lot of words went into it. I know that a lot of effort went into putting together big words and references to the types of things I'm interested in. I know that it is literary in style, but being literary in style does not mean that it's good art. Do you know what I mean? It does in the world of video games mean that it is unlike many other things. And for that reason,
compared to the low standards of like just about every other video game.
Ambition can be its own reward.
Totally. Especially if you're able to come to something like this, you know, if you get press code and you're like, oh, what is this thing? Do you know what I mean? But if you're out $40 and you open the thing and 20 minutes in, you're like, boy, I hate being here. That's a much harder pill to swallow. To that end, I definitely advise looking at some people playing through the game to get a taste of it, to get a taste of like what that ugliness feels like and whether or not you're interested in like being in that place. At its best moments, it reminds me of some of the stuff that I've read from some of my favorite authors. You know, there is definitely some China Melville here. There is definitely, like I said, some Grant Morrison, some Warren Ellis. Like, this is the school of thought. This is the school of writing that I feel like. At its worst, it feels like another comics writer, Garth Ennis, who just had one of his books, The Boys, get turned into an Amazon original show. I don't know if have any of you seen The Boys yet? That is the story about.
No, I don't. I'd heard that like everything, because he also did a Preacher, which was a really poorly adapted. Well, Preacher, boy, it was a comic that felt good in the moment for reasons that make sense of who I was at the time, and being younger did not particularly age well, I don't think, other than maybe aesthetically. It's still like a very arresting comic to look at, but I don't know that I get, other than who's the vampire? Jesse, right?
That's right.
He's still still a fun character, but
That,
so I had not not read The Boys, but I'd heard that like, yo, do you think Preacher feels kind of gross? Like, The Boys is just like way more of that, like cranked up to 11, and in no way is it like a world that you like feel good, or even that feels like it's saying anything. It's just ugly for the sake of being ugly.
And that is like at its moments where I think it is being the most excessive or the most like frankly just like up its own ass, unwilling to commit to a sense that there could be a goodness in anyone, like just such a deep cynicism that it feels like the worst of Garth Ennis. And, you could do worse than the worst of very popular comics writer Garth Ennis. Sure. I could be here being like, this is like shitty InfoWars trash. And it's not that. Like, but.
Yeah.
But also there's a tension, like there's a tension between being an arch leftist and then having sort of reflexive cynicism about the world and the people in it, too, right? Totally. There's if you're always above everyone in all things, they go about their lives, then whatever your politics, they're the politics of condescension.
That is exactly right.
And that, like, what you've described, now it sounds early enough though that like right now everything's at arm's length because you're being given the opportunity to explore a lot of options,
right? To determine your own
feel
level
out your
of
character.
You know what I mean?
And
yes. Yeah.
Part of the journey might also be like dropping that act and committing to things. I'm curious how that evolves, but it does, like, there is a tendency in like, I think this was truer in the past, but like a lot of times in older lefty spaces, what I would encounter was an unfamiliarity or reflexive contempt for people who did not share their views, or this suspicion that average people were just like too dumb to get it. Mm-hmm. And that can be that I think that is impossible to square with leftist objectives and leftist politics. Right. Like, if you fundamentally believe that people are fundamentally dumbasses and don't recognize their interests and can just be led around by the nose, then I think your politics are going to founder on that.
And it's so interesting because I feel like I could imagine the creators of this game, I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth, I can imagine defenders of this game being either people who say you're just too dumb to get it. You need to step up your game and like really open up your mind for this is for people who have high SAT scores, right? Or I could imagine people saying you don't like it because you're on your fucking high horse. You're in the ivory tower. You want everything to be perfect. You want everything to be unproblematic. Well, guess what, bucko? Down here in the fucking gutter, in the grime, in the streets, no one's perfect. No one passes your purity tests. And this is the real world. And like, okay. But also, this is a game where I lost a morale point because I couldn't get my tie off the fucking, ceiling fan, and my inner demon voice made fun of me for it. Like, I'm here for the ride. I'm happily open to possible. There have been a couple of moments that have been just like truly, truly, truly incredible so far, and I think that the basic structure is there for something really great. The fact that they've built these systems to make conversations feel tense is already very good. It's what they do with that.
And isn't the story supposed to be like more or less completely open-ended, in which like, hey,
yeah,
what you can go do this or
don't.
You can go do that,
yep. That is,
or don't, just you're good. There's
a time mechanic as you talk to people, time passes and like the world changes, different things open up and close, and like, if I'm going to have real deep, anything like a real thought about this besides these first impressions, it's going to be.
I'd be curious to see you like complete a couple of arcs.
Yes,
where the game would be forced.
There are side cases, so like I'm gonna
to start previewing what it would potentially do with the larger arc of the character. Yeah. Or what it wouldn't, or will comment on through like smaller things that you solve or take care of.
Totally.
I hope you like this game, Austin. You just spent 30 minutes putting markers down that you're gonna have to pick up.
We'll see.
So,
right?
I hope that game like rewards the time.
I think the thing is like I think it's noteworthy in the sense that like it is so unlike other games of this type, even games of this like CRPG. Like dialogue heavy.
It's an audacious game, no matter how you strike it.
So I think it is worth the time in that sense. If only because like it's a curiosity. So I don't know. I'm going to, if I can, I'm going to try to get through, like you said, Patrick, at least a few smaller arcs. There are like big cases and small cases, and I'm going to try to get through some side cases, basically.
Get that body down, man.
Dude,
go find a mask to put on or
like,
something.
Smelling salts. That didn't work. I puked my fucking guts out in front of these little kids. They made fun of me.
Wait, do you like smell the smelling salts and then then like how is that going to help you get that body down?
Fucking no, it's not a good
it
idea.
overpowers the smell of the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it wasn't smelling salts. It was ammonia. So it was like, oh, if I smell the ammonia, that will prevent me from. There was a strong wind. It didn't work. I puked my guts out. My partner was like, you know what? And like this is like a good moment. Like when your partner shows up, he is like, "What the fuck have you been doing?" He's like, "I'm not going to cause a scene, but like, you didn't take the body down? It's been days." And after finally going over and trying twice, he's like, "All right, let's just maybe the wind will change directions. Maybe the wind will die down. Let's go talk to people for a little while." And anything but seeing you puke twice in a row.
Let this kid throw these damn rocks and
the body.
maybe he'll knock it down.
Convincing the kid to knock maybe the kid.
No, that is not an option.
Knock the body down.
No, that kid was too busy calling me slurs, and then telling me that his dad is a shithead and a drug runner, and like that's one of the side cases is like, well, maybe either I could go bust his dad for being a drug runner, or I could get some of that into that drug running action and be a corrupt cop. Both of those seem like they're on the table for me, 100%. So that is my early impressions of it. It's one of those games where it's like, to give you more impressions, it will not be another 2 hours. It will be another 15 hours because that is like the level of depth. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're like, you could go bowling for a day and have some thoughts about bowling, but you better go bowling for a month before you tell me anything else about your bowling trips. You didn't learn shit on day 3 of your bowling. You better like really commit before you tell me more. So that is. I'll try to put some time in. A quick short, I'm playing the opposite game, and this is a very short shout out. There's a phone game I've been playing that feels like the opposite game to this. It is like $2 on iOS. It is called Land of Livia. And it looks like if I showed you this thing really right here, like Cado, look at this inventory, or look at this like screen and just start hitting buttons. It looks like a default. It looks like it's made in Visual Basic or something.
This got the like patterned background of a
uncover a dark conspiracy.
The story stuff, I don't give a fuck about. It is like it's like a fantasy RPG. The whole thing about it that is interesting is that you play it in real time.
These look like spreadsheets.
They look like spreadsheets. You play it in real time where like if you go somewhere, it takes you 15 minutes to get there. And so it's a game I just like pick up and check in on a couple of times a day where it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the Pirate Cove. It's going to take me 30 minutes to get there. When I get there, I'm going to hit the button that says like dig for treasure. It is like a clicker, but it's like not a clicker because it's not open-ended in that way where it's just the numbers going up. It has been a great little like idle game in a different sense of idle game. So Land of Livia. It's not a recommendation even, but it's like, hey, I like games where sometimes I go do this for an hour, and then it does that for an hour. When I open it back up, it says, you got a cool crown. Like, awesome, I got a cool crown. There's opposite of Disco Elysium. There's a chat. You can hang out with your friends at a campfire. It's a whole thing.
Gandalf the White is in here.
I bet he is. I'm not vouching for the community of this game. Again, like the first chapter or whatever is like $2.
Weird.
So that's the opposite of Disco Elysium in many ways. But.
It looks like it's on the transparent background for Photoshop.
Photoshop, yeah. Totally. All the buttons look like default.
You were 100% right.
Default emoji that you would feel like, oh yeah, that's the campfire, like vector graphic.psd that you found. So yeah, that's my other tiny thing. We should take a break, and we do have a couple of other things we can talk about still. We'll be right back. We are back. Patrick, it sounds like you've been playing some more Valfaris, heavy metal.
What? Divinity Fallen Heroes placed on indefinite hold by developer Larian Studios? What is this shit?
Is that the tactics thing that they were doing? Or?
I did not even know that it was scheduled for a November release. I thought I put that out of my brain for a game that came out a long time ago. Larian had been co-developing Fallen Heroes with Logic Artists. Both companies will now go their own way for the time being, with Larian continuing to work on Baldur's Gate 3 while Logic focuses on its own Expedition series. Quote, it became clear to everyone involved the Fallen Heroes need greater development time and resources that are available now to bring it to fruition in a fun and sustainable way. We value the work that everyone put into Fallen Heroes, and though we lament its status for now, we all agree there's a great game in there that will sometimes reach the players who await it. We're sorry for the players except for the game, but we strongly believe that bringing Fallen Heroes to fans should be done in a timeline that allows it to be developed soundly. Weird to cancel a game that with conceivably we could get like a code for in a week or two. And
I didn't realize that it was that close.
I honestly, if you had asked me like, what happened to that Tactics game? I was like, oh, it's probably still, a year off, or that it was going to enter early access this November and then spend a bunch of time getting tweaked. Because that little demo that I played at PAX East was a tremendous amount of fun. It really was a game whose combat lent itself to a turn-based game.
You still haven't gotten more into Divinity Original Sin 2 yet.
Nah, that'll
be winter.
I have
holiday.
I have a very specific time frame in which I think I might finally be able to play that game. That is I have earmarked in my head for the future. So it's not anytime soon, but it is sometime in 2020. But I'm playing. I played a lot more. I had a moment this weekend where I was like, looking as we do towards like the week ahead of like content and podcasts. It's like, all right, should I play something new? Like, should I go find something to put like 3-4 hours into that's like I could write about? And I was like, there's so many things out right now. I need to do a little bit of like checkboxing of just like go back to a game that I like and I want to play more of and like get towards the end of that so that I can just kind of put it out of my life. And so Valfaris, which was the sort of like heavy metal space action game to Iron Maiden cross Contra or Warhammer 40K cross Contra that I talked about last week. I was like, that seems like, okay, how long can that game possibly be? I've really enjoyed it so far. Let's go further into that. And I will say it's a lot longer than I thought. I'm now kind of marks levels by the amount of like checkpoint vials that you can have in reserve, which is a system I'll get into in a second because I was definitely not playing with it at all in my time with it. But so I'm like 14 of those in, so 14 major bosses, and I feel like I'm in the final area. But yeah, really, really fun game. Continues to consistently just be a tremendously fun action game that has just a really great balance between difficulty and in that like it pushes back on you, but in the ways that I want. It's like every once in a while it kind of stonewalls you, but never in a way that feels like insurmountable. It just feels like, hey, dude, you need to figure out what this section is about and maybe mix up what weapons you're using. It's a game where I think we all do this, where especially when we're reviewing games, like you're looking for markers of, especially when like a game isn't out yet or hasn't been, there's no like YouTube walkthrough to look up. It's like, what are the marks that I can look at for like how far I am and how much more I have to go? And I thought, oh, when this fills out the sheet of how many weapons I can carry, in the same way that like a certain currency can like tell you like how far you are in a game, I was like, oh, all right, I filled out these weapons. That's got to mean that like I'm in like the final sprint. It turns out in Valfaris, no, it just makes a new page for a new set of weapons when like it fills out, which is cool. Like this, I mean, I have at the moment, like, you know, 9 different pistols, like 10 different like melee weapons, like 15 different like there's just an enormous spread of different types of weapons that vary all the way between like a laser that like bounces between different enemies to a flamethrower to missiles. Like it's just, you have such an enormous amount of versatility in terms of how you sort of approach action scenarios.
You always have all of those. You're just choosing between, or like as you
every
every
checkpoint. Okay. Yeah, every checkpoint lets you mix up what your weapon selection is, and then you're getting these blood medals that come either through secrets or come through like mini bosses, or sometimes just straight up bosses that allow you to sort of upgrade. Rather than like specializing, I've chosen to just like upgrade everything by like 1, so I can just like keep my I decided to go for versatility instead of like, I just really like the shotgun and I'm going to make this one really, really powerful. Kind of decided to pump up everything so I could keep the spread really wide. But one of the things that I didn't quite pick up on as I was playing is that, so every time you beat a boss, it says like, your like vial count has increased by 1. And in the corner, it'll say, you know, 0 of 7 or 0 of 9. And so one of the tricks of the game is that your health never increases. Like you're never getting a stat that goes up. You're never investing in a stat that goes up. But every time you pick up a checkpoint marker, so like you get these idols. And so when you hit to a new checkpoint, you have to spend the idol in order to have that become a checkpoint. And so the game's like tension is, hey, you think you can make it through 2 checkpoints? And if you do, you will always, in between one checkpoint and the next, there will be a new idol. And so, and sometimes there's a secret one, but like at the very least, between this one and the next one, in a very obvious location, there'll be one to pick up, so you can spend something at every single checkpoint, no matter what. The game is never going to force you to forcefully like go past a checkpoint. But if you want to increase your health like a smidge, and then more of a smidge, and the larger smidge, like, do you think you found a section that, like, if you witted it a couple of times, could you make it all the way through 2 of those? And man, like, that really makes the game, I picked up on this about halfway through. I was like, how come that number is always 0 for me? I was like, I need to be skipping sections. Like, I just hadn't bothered with it. Now, I think the game is still manageable. Like, I don't think it's a game where you couldn't complete bosses or bury yourself in a hole. But it is one where I really should have been doing this earlier in the game and trying to like keep up with like 1 of 1, 2 of 2, 3 of 3. Instead, I started like 0 of 9. And I'm starting in like really difficult sections of the game where I'm having to pick and choose, like, can I navigate my way through this? Or hopefully this one won't be a boss at the end of it, because if it's a boss, then I'm probably going to have to spend the checkpoint. But I've managed to like get up a reserve to like 8. And that 8 is like increased my health by like, I don't know, like 1.3x, like enough that like I can survive.
You feel it. Yeah.
Like, I can feel it. I can survive fights or like a battle that goes a little bit wrong. Like I can muster through some mistakes. And just the experience of like like get like your every screen, like you're just like, yes, get through that screen. And when you see that idol, pick up that idol. It's like, cool, I am now permanently up 1. If I can just get to that checkpoint, that's probably a screen or 2 away. And it just makes the game even more exhilarating to play. So I highly recommend it. I posted some clips this weekend from it. At some point, I piloted a mech with a skull face.
Nice.
And it's very good. And at another point, I was in a level where, I don't know, some secret temple, something at the Earth's core, and the environmental obstacles are these bloody fists that are just constantly pounding into the wall. The game has a real look to it. It's a beautiful look. It sticks to it. It commits to it, and it's just a lot of fun to play. So if any of that sounds at all, if Valfaris sounded interesting to you before, it only gets better as it goes along.
There's not the bad turn. There is not like you got halfway through and we're like, I'm done.
It's just more Valfaris in a way that is very good. So
nice.
yeah, I'm liking it quite a bit.
Cado, have you put more time into Indivisible? That is the game that I've decided I want to play the most, but also I think I'm waiting until it hits Switch.
That's
so
fair.
I want you to tempt me into making bad decisions and just end up buying it
There's
twice.
a cool pirate lady that's got really like these cannons on her back.
Okay.
And she uses them to move around like a jetpack and also to attack enemies, but it's an AoE that also hurts your characters.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure your people are out of there before it's like they go up and they have like an arc time.
Okay.
In the air.
So you need to make sure your characters aren't attacking
Yeah.
when the bombs hit, when the cannonballs hit,
Right.
basically. That's cool.
It's a neat little like it's the first time that any of my characters have hurt other of my characters, right? But like it's that sort of like combo timing that you can, it's again really just leaning into that that feeling of a Skullgirls or a Marvel where you're like getting combos, you get a rhythm, like you want things popping off at the right time to hit, and it's really neat. So.
Have you found that it's opened up any of the Metroid-y stuff that we wondered
It's
about last
just
time?
barely starting to.
Okay. How far in are you?
I'm like 8 now.
Okay. Hours.
Do you have a
Yeah.
world map? Can you like jump between places?
They introduced a warp. I have not found the other end of the warp yet. They've said that there are 3 regions, so I will be going to one
Okay.
of those regions. I haven't gotten to the region just yet. Like I'm trying to get a boat. It's a thing, but it is starting to show. It's like, oh, okay, this is about to open up. I found a better map. There's actually a map in the menus that I had missed before that marks things automatically, which was good.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it marks like the Why isn't
That's
that just
the
the
thing.
map?
But you
Why
both
isn't that
want
just
it.
the map when you hit up?
I think it is, but that map that when you hit up is so focused on the room that you're in that you can't really tell that it's doing that. But the other one is you can move it all around and you can see, oh, it marked that spot up there from a while back.
So that is an unlockable
Does it get-
thing later in the game then.
No, I think it's just like it was either like it wasn't in there in the
The preview build, maybe?
or I missed it and it was
Yeah,
just like
that happens.
Yeah, it was like I didn't go through all the menus. They never point to it or anything. They only say like press up to see the map and that's it. But it is it's like marking spots where there's doors or like where it's using a specific power to open. Like
What are
different
they
areas.
hiding behind those doors? Like, what is the incentive to go back? And,
So far, I found more ring cells. So the upgrade material, where you have to get like the first one is like you get what was it 3 or 5 or something, and then everyone got an extra. You get like an extra attack instead of just being able to do XX with one
XXX?
character. XXX.
Is that third X just another hit, or is it like a different effect, or?
It depends on the character, right?
cool.
It's like a you just add another button press to the combo chain, but like on different characters, that extra thing could be different depending on when it comes in your combo.
Gotcha.
And the other one is defense, and I think that has to do with blocking, but I haven't. You need 10 for that, and I haven't gotten 10 yet because they're actually pretty sparse and kind of hard to find. Which,
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until Switch. That's where I want to play that game.
I think I'm gonna find out if I want to find out if that port is bad. And if the
Yes.
port's bad, then okay,
Right.
whatever. I'll
Yes.
just pick up on the PC
Yes.
where I left off, and that'll be like a really fun
I
holiday game.
I found Vinny Caravella's in this game.
I heard that.
Right? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I heard
Yep.
that.
Apparently,
Shoutouts.
yeah, someone. It was like someone else put him in it, but like he's in there. I found
Small
like the
business.
spot
Yeah, I guess,
where all of those are.
Small businessman.
There's like it's like a port town. And there's like
Gotcha.
a bunch of people. So
It's
yeah.
like it was part of the indie
go
right?
Yeah.
like campaign. I guess like someone contributed enough that's like,
that's fun.
hey, you can put it a NPC, and then they realized I don't know what I want my NPC to be, and then like went to the Giant Bomb forums to ask for help, and they
Someone was like,
ended up putting
yeah.
Vinny.
That's good. Shout
Yeah.
outs.
Which is good.
Shout outs to Vinny. Vinny on vacation right now.
Nice.
Shout outs to Vinny taking a fucking vacation
Great
for
for
earning
Vinny.
it,
Good.
Vinny. Anyone else playing anything they want to shout out? You still on Destiny 2?
Yeah.
You beat the raid?
Beat the raid.
Congrats to the team that beat the
There's
raid.
some more shit at the end, just like I knew there would be.
Is it good?
Oh, it's fucking good. Yeah.
We'll talk about it
We'll talk about it later.
Okay, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear
yeah.
about it.
That raid is also really like after going through it again. I think it's my second. I'll say third if we include Destiny 1.
Yeah.
Third favorite raid of all Destiny raids.
Taken King or Vault of Glass?
What's your all-timer?
What's your-
Vault of Glass. I'm sorry, like Taken King is like fourth now. It got bumped out by this, I think,
Okay.
just because of the length. I always thought Taken King was one encounter too long.
Okay.
But the mechanics I think are the most
The mechanics of Vault of Glass?
of this Garden of Salvation are they're the most they're definitely one of the most different from like where you can see how they took parts of the game and shifted them in other raids to make the mechanics in the raid, but it's still kind of related to things you saw in the campaign or things like that. This is like they've made new mechanics that are unlike anything else in the
Okay.
raid. Like there's like nothing, there's no comparison to
direct.
the things you're doing in there. It's like you're being. Me and my team got the raid exotic, which was required us to do a bunch of puzzles in
Okay.
between the encounters in the raid, which are really cool.
Cool.
'Cause the big new mechanic is this tether thing that attaches you and your teammates together, and you make a line of light. And for a bunch of those encounters, you're trying to connect 2 points, basically.
But like standing in like a certain
Yeah.
like formation or whatever.
Yeah. And then for these puzzles for the raid gun, it actually switched it up, and you had to connect. You had to close the loop. So it was just usually it was from one point to another. Then it was just like you 6 people, and you have to configure yourselves and traverse areas connected without snapping the connection, and then line up in certain configurations to get like things to unlock in the world.
Are you,
It
like,
was really
encircling
neat.
things basically.
Yeah, or
That's
like
cool.
there were like points where you had to make the line cross through that point, and you have to figure out
Got you.
where the right place
That's
is
cool.
to stand.
That's a neat mechanic. That's
Yeah.
a neat way of doing that.
And in the final encounter, like brought together, like this is what they do well with the raids, is this kind of building. Like each encounter introduces a new thing, built up to like one where you're kind of doing all of the other all of the other mechanics all at once, right? But
Okay.
like in concert and like in some sort of sustainable loop. But what's interesting about this one is that there's a way to kind of brute force it if you're like super good at dealing with things being in chaos, and a way to figure it out where it simplifies the process for 6 people.
Okay.
Which is interesting because usually there's one correct way to do it, and if you're not doing it that correct way, it's almost impossible to
You're just
finish
stuck.
the
Yeah.
encounter. This one is like, I guess, jump ahead like 5 minutes if you don't want spoilers for the last encounter. I'm gonna quickly explain this one because I think it's neat. Basically, you're opening portals, and each time you open a portal, the boss takes a a piece of this island that you're standing on away,
Oh,
and there's
cool.
just like that Vex fluid that like hurts over time under there. So if you're methodical about it, you can make sure, and there's a way for you to rebuild that ground by tethering to a block that appears somewhere. And if you're methodical about it, you can do it so that you're only opening a portal once you've rebuilt the floor.
So that way you're not losing territory
Right.
more than one piece at a time and
Exactly.
repairing that. Okay.
Or if you
Fuck it, man.
Yeah, if you say fuck it, you can like lose all the floor and there's still like pillars like standing like where you could stand, and you can like still like figure out and keep bringing things back slowly, but
Okay.
and you can still finish the encounter that way, like, which is neat. It's like there's two options here of like how what's the word I'm looking for? Meticulous you want to be with these
Right.
things. Like, it's not necessary to have a certain amount of
Listen,
floor, other
man.
than like if you want to jump up on this pillar up here and you're good with being up there, you can just be up there.
I got
That's
Risk
chill.
Runner. Let me
Right,
just run
exactly.
through the fucking electricity. Let's get it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. I'm
it's-
glad. I'm excited to hear the lore stuff once we hang up this call.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You and I can talk that deep shit. Awesome. Speaking of games that are taking over our lives, I've continued to play Final Fantasy XIV.
Good.
Final Fantasy XIV update check. I'm a Bard now. I got to Bard.
Good. Wait, is Bard like a
Archer goes
secondary?
to Bard. So there's
Huh.
like starting jobs, there's starting classes, and those become the jobs. So you start as a Lancer that becomes a Dragoon. You start as a whatever, some other shit that becomes a Warrior. Berserker becomes a Warrior or something like that. I started as an Archer, and I'm a Bard now.
It seems like a weird jump.
Dude, the story stuff that makes the connection is not great. I mean, actually, I think if I tell you it in the right way, it sounds dope.
Sure.
I just haven't been enamored with the characters. The premise of the Bard trainer is that he's known as God's bow, and all of the local archers are trying to like go get him to train them because he's back in town. It's like God's bow went off on a bunch of dope adventures, and now he's back. And everyone goes to train with him, and he's like, "No, I just like poetry and music now. I don't want to talk about archery shit anymore." And you go find him, and he's like an old man in a log, and he's like, do you want to learn how to use a fucking bow?"
In a log?
He's hanging out in a log,
Just like
just hanging out in
okay.
a log.
Like
Sure.
a redwood
No,
scale, like
just
a
like
big
a
log.
It's
or-
a big log. I guess it's like redwood scale. Yeah, like it's a big log. It's not,
Yeah.
he is a human man.
Sure.
He's like an old human man.
I just imagine someone laying in a log that's like vaguely human size, just
No,
hanging
he's like
out.
bigger than that. He's not just like,
He's
he's not like not like a human burrito.
Yeah,
in a log.
exactly.
That'd
That's
be
what
very funny too. Hey, how's it going? I love poetry now. And he's like, if you want to learn about poetry and shit, I'm down, but you got to go get approved. I have a friend who's a Moogle, who's hanging out somewhere. Go see if he's okay. And you go and you find the Moogle, and the Moogle's stuck in a bush, surrounded by bandits. And the Moogle's like, I want to go, but these bandits stole some shit from me. If you can go get my shit, then I'll tell you. I guess I'll give you proof that you have the soul of a bard, and that'll convince my friend to train you as a bard. I'm like, all this seems fake as shit. You're all making this up as you go along. Whatever. I play a song now.
Great.
It makes my damage. It lets me do one of my high damage attacks more often if I have my damage over times up, basically. Like if I have my enemies are poisoned, every time the poison does damage, it has a chance of letting me do my super strong attack.
Nice.
Like immediately instead of in 15 seconds. It's fine. I figured out a way to get a boost, an XP boost in this game without skipping content, which is so if you have
You fall asleep with your hands
With
on
my-
the keyboard,
I
and
just click,
the
click,
game
click,
just
click,
keeps
click.
going.
No. If you have a class, if you have a class at a certain level, all other classes that you could switch to. So unlike other MMOs, you don't have to make a new character to try a new class. That's like a key thing of this game. You can have one character who ends up being like a paladin, but also a bard, but also a dark knight, and also a white mage. That's like a thing
You're
people
swapping
do.
between those, or you're sharing the skills.
You're swapping between them. You don't. It's not like Final Fantasy Tactics where you can like mix and. I don't think it is anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe you can mix and match to some degree, maybe like among like classes, but I don't think that's the case. But you could be like, okay, I want to go level up Dragoon now, even though I've been a Bard this whole time. Let me try being a Dragoon. So any class that isn't your highest level class gets a 100% XP boost on kills because they want you to be able to level up those other classes quickly by just like doing dungeons over and over. And so I think I'm going to buy a boost for a class I know I'm not ever going to play, which will get that to level 75 and make leveling any other class I want to try a little bit easier.
Gotcha.
It's bad. I'm fucked. But I haven't made any like big story progress yet, so I can't weigh in on any other major NPCs or anything yet. I'll get there. I'm chasing around this dude who looks just like Shar from Gundam right now. He's like off-brand Shar, and it's just it's a lot for me. He's wearing red and gold. Like he's blonde hair, like seems like he's up to no good. He has a mask.
Yeah.
It's a whole fucking thing.
Yeah, great.
Anyway, I think that's kind of all I've been hitting. I don't. Anyone else want to shout anything else out before we wrap up? Oh, I want to shout out.
Well, we
Go
should.
ahead.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say we should bring full circle on the Blizzard stuff, given that
Oh my god! Yeah, go ahead.
a lot happened.
What's new?
Yeah.
What's up with Blizzard right now?
Well, like the latest thing is that Blizzard canceled an event at Nintendo's headquarters in New York because Overwatch is coming out. Like, I know I mentioned it on our podcast last week, but then it was weird to wake up this morning and be like, "Here's your Overwatch code," and I was like, "Right, you're just business as usual, right? You have a new video game coming out, like." And it's not this PR person's fault, you know. I mean, that's not on them. They're doing their job. They're delivering the codes to the email addresses. But then this morning, Blizzard said Nintendo said that Blizzard was pulling out of a event at their New York headquarters, like the Nintendo store. But that comes off of look, when you've got news, you want people to read it. You want the time when people are together, ready for the news. Friday night, 5 p.m., the perfect time for news is when Blizzard finally put out a tweet, or the post was called "Regarding last weekend's Hearthstone Grandmasters tournament," as innocuous as they come. Can we want to take bets on how much do you think they paid a crisis PR firm to write this statement? At least $100,000?
You know what? I had all this thrown
because it's been ongoing all week, right?
Has.
It's not like this is something you just do on Friday.
Yeah,
you're
on retainer at this point. You have
Yeah.
I don't know. See, I thought I knew how much money.
I don't know how much crisis PR costs. Is it like a lawyer? You're paying per hour? Oh, you pay for a package.
They probably they have an internal team that's like their comms team. Then they probably have an on retainer lawyer for all this shit.
Red button that you press.
Yeah, and then they probably also at this point have brought in another third party recommended to them by their lawyer on retainer, who's probably more of a generalist. Do you know what I mean? But they're big, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Rudy Giuliani. Okay,
Anyway.
Real quick. Rudy Giuliani. What I was starting to say before was,
would I be shocked? Would I be shocked if somehow these stories intersected at some point?
No, but okay.
Would not.
The thing I was starting to say before
Giuliani
was
investing in some weird esports team.
fraud guarantee. That sounds like an esports.
That'd be
team.
the
New owners of Echo Fox.
Yeah.
It's Rudy with those two goons in a hotel lobby.
Yes.
No,
So
Fraud Guarantee is the name of some new stadium. Can't you imagine
you're
it?
right.
Welcome to Fraud Guarantee
Yeah,
Stadium.
totally. So this is just this is nothing to do with the.
Go right ahead.
The thing I was going to say before was I feel like I lost the understanding of how much money people were making for bad shit.
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani, it came out last night. Rudy Giuliani made $500,000 as part of a scheme that was connected to blah, 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 blah. Scheme is probably editorializing too much for how much I know about the situation. I'm going to say a scheme. Rudy Giuliani makes $500,000 for work he did for Ukrainian businessmen facing campaign finance charges, Reuters reports. $500,000 is the sort of money that would change my life. I think if $500,000 appeared in this room, all of our lives would be changed instantly. I'd be happy to split that money with y'all.
See ya.
Right. All of our lives changed instantly. For Rudy Giuliani, I don't know if that's a blip.
Probably
No.
not. That's a couple of nice dinners.
What do you, in my
abroad.
mind, so I want to be clear again, I am not specifically allegating anything about what Rudy Giuliani did. That man has lawyers. This is a recording.
Well, he might represent himself.
You're
in
right.
which case, you're probably
I'm probably
good.
okay. Let me just text him real quick and see if he's still answering his fucking texts from journalists like a nightmare person. I assumed that if you did some corrupt shit, you were walking away with a bag. Like you were walking away with like, and I'm good for life in a way that's like for real. But is being a corrupt asshole in this world really just a bunch of $500,000 checks? Again, $500,000 changes my life forever. We are not up there in that range. We could do one $500,000 scheme and get into a place where we're more comfortable. Lots of problems disappear because we're able to get like family the medical care they need and deserve. But also $500,000 does not buy you a mansion. It does not buy you like rent for life. It does not give today, if we split $500,000 between the four of us.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I was looking at the three of you. Honestly, I really was. Would it be, does not mean that like,
Split for ways, it wouldn't even pay for
that's
all
what I'm
of
saying.
Jessica's college.
Jessica's college is exactly the thing I'm thinking about.
I mean,
Like,
I could maybe do half of it. Room and board.
room and board. Exactly. She better get a fucking part-time job for books. That's not that much money to do some corrupt shit for. And I just thought,
Right.
I thought you were walking away with some M's. Like I thought you were going to be like, here is $5 million. Yes, I will happily interfere in an international election. Thank you and goodbye.
Is that on the text messages when like you're negotiating the pay?
Right.
I was like, not enough M's.
Not enough M's. Put some more M's on that. I need this to be candy coated.
No,
You know what I mean? At least two
I
M's.
think-
Candy coated chocolate.
God damn it.
I think the nature of corruption, though, is it's about dependency too.
Yes,
right? It's
true.
like you get that taste.
Yeah.
Of the good life, but like, don't get it twisted. You aren't one of us. Like, you didn't just become a member of our class.
Right.
You are still a servant. Now, you are a very well remunerated servant.
Right.
But like,
It's
and
this
here's the
thing of
thing, once
ours,
you
not
get
this
used
thing of
to-
yours.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, and this is also like why the Hunter Bidens of the world, like they need that annual board seat because like if it goes away, their life is also changed.
Yes. Right.
Right? Like suddenly you are descending back to what still for any of us would consider an enormously like
Luxurious.
lavish and-
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's no longer the I have a
$500
guaranteed
steak.
sinecure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No more Kirkland or all of the Kirkland. Never gonna
Yeah,
run out of
that's
Kirkland.
a-
Man.
Double down on the
Patrick,
Kirkland.
a better world is possible.
Just take me
And for you, I don't even think it's that far of a reach.
Just wheel me up to the Costco and be like, I'll take it all, Chief.
Put it all in the van. Also, I bought a van.
There's a van in that
Is
house.
that
Van
so
in
we
that
just needed to
Costco.
radicalize
Pull that
Patrick.
van out. God, go. Sorry, Rob. What do you?
Patrick, can you imagine if you and your family were also owners of the Costco and your fellow Kirkland
Nationalize
workers?
Costco. Oh God.
So, Blitzchung.
Yeah. What?
I will say last thing.
Yes.
I will say a little bit of when we watched that Mangler trailer.
Yeah.
Like Robert Englund, showing a little bit of Rudy energy though.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Like,
You're right. There was some Rudy in that. Or
I can see it.
did Rudy watch the Mangler during his term and be like,
Does Rudy own a Mangler?
"Oh, absolutely."
That'd be like one of those things where you could launder some money through a Mangler.
Yeah. Also, Mangler is the name of the guy to the right of Rudy, the big guy behind him. That's Mangler.
Shout out to columnist Jimmy Breslin, who I think immortally described Giuliani as a small man in search of a balcony back when he was like first running for mayor, and I think remains probably the best summary of like who that dude was and is.
Dude, you gotta own it. Listen, to all my short kings out there, you don't need to find that balcony. You don't have to be over anybody. You're already.
Oh, he didn't
up
say
here.
short. He said
I know he
small.
said
That's why it's
small.
perfect.
I'm just letting people know you don't have to feel bad about that. You don't need to be a little dictator looking down on New York like that. You're already up here with me at like pretty okay height. Like, all right, yeah, that's average.
We got a fire escape.
we can go out in that fire escape.
Take in the view of the water towers.
Rob, we ain't got a dream no more. We got real shit. God. You know what was good? The Wire. Oh boy. I think that's gonna do it for us. Was there more?
No, I gotta
Blizzard?
explain what happened.
we
Talk about it.
No,
No.
you said
right.
Rudy Giuliani in the middle of
Continue.
a sentence.
Yeah,
Okay,
the man with the sidetrack.
Apologies. Rudy has been on my mind. Talk to me
No.
about Blizzard.
Rudy has been on my mind. The name of blah, blah. J. Allen Brack, who's the president of the current president of Blizzard. I honestly recommend people go and read the statement. It is fascinating as a document,
Dude.
in the context. You know.
You ever see a piece of writing and be like, this has either been through the hands of 30 people, none of whom are in agreement about how any words should be near each other, or no one edited this, or 3 people wrote it and no one did.
This is a document in which 2 paragraphs back to back use the phrase "epic entertainment." And so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but from part of this, our esports programs are. Let me start with this, because I want to get the 2 epic entertainments.
Yeah.
At Blizzard, our vision is, quote, to bring the world together through epic entertainment, end quote. And we have core values that apply here. Think globally, lead responsibly, and importantly, every voice matters, encouraging everybody to share their point of view. The actions that we took over the weekend are causing people to question if we are still committed to those values. We absolutely are, and I will explain. Our esports programs are an expression of our vision and our values. Esports exist to create opportunities for players from around the world, from different cultures, and from different backgrounds to come together to compete and share their passion for gaming. It is extremely important to us to protect these channels and the purpose they serve: to bring the world together through epic entertainment, celebrating our players, and build diverse and inclusive communities. And there's a whole lot of bullshit that comes after that, that is not worth reading verbatim, that is worth reading just to see how a company frames a thing like this. But like, what is the main takeaway? The main takeaway is that they, for all the flowery language, it's essentially a double down. For Blitzchung himself specifically, they reduced the ban competitively from a year to 6 months. They're still keeping his money, right? I believe
They're returning it to him. I think.
They are returning the money to him?
the money. Yeah.
But the ban.
The ban
banned.
is just cut in half. Quote, with regard to the casters, remember their purpose is to keep the event focused on the tournament. That didn't happen here, and we are setting their suspension to 6 months as well, which is there is something particularly aggravating about that being held against the casters, in which these are people who hid under a fucking desk, realizing like the grenade that had been like lobbed in their direction, basically, in which they were not prepared for this. I sincerely doubt there is training that goes alongside like, hey, if random person decides to do a protest, here's how to handle that and de-escalate the situation. It says a lot about everything here that Blitzchung made a choice, right? Like, Blitzchung is someone who knew that they were playing, like, try and separate the politics out of it, whether you agree with what he was saying or not. Like, knew he was violating what is supposed, quote unquote, supposed to happen here in these interviews. These casters did not. They were hired to do a thing to facilitate, a player-friendly interview. That player decided to use that moment to make a statement, made an active choice as a political actor to do something in the world. And the fact that these casters are then, after consideration, still punished to this degree is very frustrating. Because I think Blitzchung knew he would be punished in some degree. I think we've all, said a lot of the reason the reaction to this has been so large is the disproportionate reaction to what occurred. Blitzchung knew there would be a response to his actions by Blizzard. He wanted one. Like, that's part of the protest.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's one, like, seeing them lay out their values in this way is just so laughable. What are the three big things again? Thinking globally. Think globally. Yeah.
Lead responsibly,
and every
voice matters.
Every voice matters. By these hallowed words, we run our corporation. Sorry, we're not supposed to talk about Outer Worlds yet. This response is like such a non-step. It is not a step because it doesn't address. If I was working at Blizzard, this would not address any of my concerns. Like I guess I'm happy Blitzchung got the money he won back. That's good, but it doesn't address what their relationship is to like the broader issue of players and specifically performers in relation to political speech. It does not set any sort of positive precedent for what might happen in the future if a player wears an armband to support a group like Black Lives Matter, or in the future if a player wants to speak out against, a war crime. Like there are specific instances in the future that
is climate change too far? Where is the line here?
Patrick, I think you'll find that the line is anything that isn't about thinking globally, leading responsibly, or every voice matters. How the fuck
they also get into play nice, play fair, one of their other core values.
Right. He was not playing fair by
in this tournament, in the tournament itself, Blitzchung played fair.
Right.
We now believe he should receive his prizing.
But
we understand
fair,
for some.
But playing fair
by what rules?
Includes appropriate pre- and post-match conduct, especially when a player accepts recognition for winning in a broadcast. It was so disruptive what he said. Like, if you want to disagree with what he said, that is totally like, let's have that conversation. But the idea that it was, quote, taking the conversation away from the purpose of the event or disrupting or derailing the broadcast is such a laughable understanding of what disruption or derailing means. Raising your fist in support of something for a moment is if that is putting at threat the entirety of your broadcast, I feel like you should rethink what your broadcast is built on top of.
It's also just this statement, the reaction to what occurred here. Like people are smarter than this. Like your consumers are smarter in 2019. Like I think this is the kind of statement that would have make sense even just 5 years ago, not even 10 years ago. But I think like people see through what you just did here, and it's not the kind of like people just are more aware, like, but just by virtue of having access to information and just how these things work on a corporate level, like seeing messaging like this, people have seen it before. They're hip to it. And so the fact that Blizzard didn't take, I didn't expect them to turn around and be like, actually, we support the Hong Kong protests. We'll see what happens next. Like, no one expected that. But, like, everything about this strikes as a company that's like, cool, wool in front of our eyes. We'll just keep pressing forward. Like, things are going to be fine. Like, players will get over this. And I just don't think that's the case. And instead, we just march into another week with Overwatch coming out on Switch, which is just going to keep Blizzard in the news, in the consciousness, because they're going to be out there talking because they have a game to promote, which creates opportunities for more of this friction, which gets us a week closer to a story kept very much alive as BlizzCon, an event that will not be canceled. That is going to happen.
Too much money.
There's too much money. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's I'm sure there will be part of their keynote, time spent on this, an attempt to address it. But I mean, that crowd, like after last year, that crowd is going to have license to turn against them. Like
in ways that are going
to be booze
to
at BlizzCon. They're going to be booze at BlizzCon.
There were booze last year,
yeah,
for the Diablo shit. Which again, like part of the thing that is so fucked is the coalition of folks who get caught up in this particular outrage include the people who were shouting about China last year because they thought their Diablo game was going to be like a Chinese mobile game, quote unquote.
Right.
And like that is like, whew, it could turn deeply ugly in a way where the messaging is fucked up around it. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Well, it's not hard for this to get xenophobic really
Very
quickly
quickly.
as people like.
I mean, to some degree,
start-
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, to some degree, like
It already
in some of
is.
like the more, especially more heated, like it is. You can see people like not separating what they like. Again, like talk about what you're talking about. Like it's not China equal evil. Like you're like, but people go to that conclusion, even out of ignorance, but out of like just blind vitriol towards Blizzard. Start hitting a space that, you got to be careful.
Yeah. We'll see how BlizzCon goes this year. They're going to announce Diablo 4, right? And like that is going to be their test in a weird way, because that is a thing we know people want, and was like, yes, now we are sated. Or will I don't even know.
Those announcements are up front, right?
I think so.
I feel like that
They're
keynote
ahead of
will
the-
be-
If it wasn't,
keynote.
Yeah,
if
there's
it
a
wasn't, it
keynote.
will be. It'll be like
Right.
The keynote will be like a human saying a version of this statement.
Yes. We know we've gone
and
through
then-
some difficult times this past few weeks. Yeah.
What's next?
But we think there's something everyone in this room can
Who's
get
the
excited
message
about.
bearer for that?
I
For
don't
Diablo?
know.
Like, I mean, this
Who
is
does
the other
Blizzard
thing.
bring
is-
out? Right.
So the nature of BlizzCon, like one of the reasons that made it work was that, for better and for worse, there was this notion that it was sort of, there was a connection between the fans and the people making the games, right? Browder being kind of maybe your quintessential example of that, being the perfect hype man for WoW. But people felt the same, I think, about Mike Morhaime, and when he said something, it carried a bit of weight, right? Like, soft-spoken dude, but still it was Mike Morhaime, and if he said something that did represent, like, these were values that you could probably trust that Blizzard was going to follow, which is why it was significant that, like, Morhaime made a pretty clear reference to Gamergate back in 2014 at BlizzCon, saying that like those politics, that ethos wouldn't really be tolerated at Blizzard or BlizzCon. And people had to work really hard to twist that message around and say, well, actually, he was coming out in support of Gamergate. He could have been more explicit, and I wish he had been, but in the room, it wasn't hard to parse what he was driving at. But the difference between then and now is that a lot of those folks have left Blizzard. And a lot of the folks who used to have that connection, used to have that credibility, aren't there anymore. And then they fired a lot of folks, early this year. And so I think I think where Blizzard begins to run into a bit of trouble is that their corporate identity and sort of the way they had humanized the company and created a relationship with fans was an asset that had value. They have liquidated that asset. And so now you're a company doing a Gamescom. And I don't think, like, is Brack going to be able to form any sort of connection and say any of this credibly on a stage in a way that wins people over or persuades them? I doubt it. And even if you get the big applause line of, and we're bringing out Diablo 4, I don't know that puts the toothpaste back in the tube, right? People will take Diablo 4. Just like they'll buy anything from any company, right? Like, people get invested in IP. But I think at the same time, this notion that Blizzard is going to be able to go just trust us to its different constituencies, that was already kind of hanging by a thread. My suspicion is their ability to pull that off is basically gone at this point, because I just don't know who remains a figure who can play that role. Maybe Kaplan?
Kaplan is who I keep
also,
coming
it's
to,
like
because Kaplan.
Kaplan's.
But he's like, is this the moment where they're like, oh, people like Jeff Kaplan, people still like Overwatch. Kaplan wasn't involved in any of this stuff. People will restrain themselves if they let Kaplan MC the whole thing, or something like that. A part of me like wonders like if it matters at all. Yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's
I think
anyone.
that's their bet.
Right.
Because what constrains action is the notion that there's going to be consequences. The consequences of having Chinese authorities mad at you are real and could very quickly escalate to a point where they affect your bottom line. The consequences of adapting your corporate culture to the sensibilities of the Chinese government and many Chinese people who do sort of share a lot of those views and values about what is and is not Chinese, what is and is not Chinese culture, and what is and is not appropriate as far as Chinese sovereignty goes. I think there's going to be I don't think there's any countervailing force on the people who are skeptical of the position Blizzard took here. I think there's not a lot of consequence that Blizzard's going to face. People will roll their eyes and say nasty things about them selling out their values for the sake of access to that Chinese market. But if that's not going to mean people don't show up to work at Blizzard, if that's not going to mean people, don't show up to launch lines for the collector's edition of Diablo 4, I think the calculation over at Activision Blizzard is that it probably doesn't matter that much.
In contrast
this is
to losing
a necessary growing pain.
Yeah, I think part of the thing that makes this actually kind of hard to unravel is it has not been clear what would happen in the case of something like this statement being made without there being repercussion. When we also don't know which levers were pulled that led to this specific action, Blizzard's action being taken. My suspicion is that this is preemptive in nature. This is them saying we don't want to lose access to this. We saw people respond negatively to Blitzchung's statement, but ahead of any actual action being taken, let's get out there and make a strong statement and retract winnings and blah blah blah. But I don't know that I'm ready to come out and be like, and here is what I think would happen if they had taken different action. Because I don't know that we've precedent in the world of games yet. Like, certainly we do know that other companies have lost access to Chinese marketplaces. We do know that there have been other, Western companies changing policies, also Chinese companies changing policies based on things from the mainland Chinese government. Absolutely, there has been instances where things are either pushed out or where changes in format or changes in content get made. Obviously, we ran that story last year on the Chinese version of PUBG and the way in which content was changed in that. It's not like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, like Google searches, being censored in different ways. And
but it is hard to know, what does that look like? Is there a world where China just says Blizzard products are not welcome in China anymore, full stop, because this one guy said this thing? And I know that it's easy to say yeah, of course that's what would have happened if they hadn't done this specific action. But I'm not ready to jump to that particular conclusion when there is a world of actions available that are not stripping money from him, that are not putting the casters out for 6 months. If there had been clearer precedent in that stuff, I can have that conversation. But where it stands right now, to your point, your point is that what we have is a question mark from if they don't do anything, but certainty from their point that by doing these things, they're not going to lose much in the long run, because it's not going to lead to walkouts at Blizzard long term, full on strikes or people leaving the company. Is the point you're making, right? Is that there's an axe hanging, or the knowledge that there will be some rumbling and bad feelings in the American audience, but that's kind of it.
Right, and they certainly I don't think they have anything to worry about coming under any kind of legislative scrutiny about their business practices with regard to China. But I think what is interesting about this is also that I feel like something's been revealed, both with this and with the stuff in the NBA, is that I think among business leaders doing extensive business with China, the scale of the potential loss is so dizzying, and their actual command and understanding of the politics of that market, of that space, of the authorities they are dealing with is so shaky that you see companies inclined to preemptively lose their cool and come down really hard as a way to demonstrate that they can comply with what they perceive to be Chinese values and interests.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe even beyond what necessarily like Chinese authorities would want.
It's hard to
I
know,
think to an
right?
extent this has gotten awkward. Yeah, because like I think to an extent this does get a little awkward if you are, for instance, the Chinese government. If you are Z or someone close to him, this gets a little awkward because this is actually really noisy, and you've got these really you have these flashpoint controversies around this idea of Chinese speech values being exported through these business relationships to other countries. And that is maybe not a proposition you wanted to make explicit, but now the NBA in kind of its haste to get ahead of this, and Blizzard in its haste to get ahead of this, have kind of painted that picture because they felt they kind of had to demonstrate that they understood and took seriously these particular areas of speech.
Dude, I also wonder how much of this is even about an actual market versus a speculative market. There are so many times that you, especially in esports, if you go read up on some of the reporting around the esports industry and the degree to which it is a speculative market. Cecilia over at Kotaku did a long piece about this earlier this year, in which you look at people talking about what the market could be once you have reached saturation or once you've penetrated that market and reached, more and more people in China because China's population is so big. And it's at this point, there's a lot of people making huge decisions about what their company is and what their company stands for on the pretense that sometime in the next X years, we will have access to this market. And it's not just that decision. It's also the budgeting decisions are being made around that stuff. You look at Hollywood as a good example of this, where it's okay, well, the budget is you'll get a higher budget because you expect that this movie's going to do well in the large Chinese market. Hypothetically, it will do well there. And in this market, it's not as simple as this product will sell well there. There will be a big market for Hearthstone or Overwatch that continues to grow into the next 10 years. As XYZ. And it's at the end of the day, that fear is so much bigger because so much is built on that speculation. So much is built on the idea that soon enough that door will open and the money will flood in because we'll be in front of so many more eyeballs. And look, there's already such good results on the small test run. What if we could go bigger? And that stuff is poison, man. Every time you get away from. Every time that you start to build on speculation, you're building on shaky sand, right? And couldn't be me. It is so nice to not be in the world of I only make decisions based on what might be there in 5 years. And I think part of it is it leads you to make decisions where you don't have that gut check that is this something I could stand by long term, because it's all built on hypotheticals in this way. And it's why you rush to make decisions like this that are not good decisions. Or you rush to, I don't know, maybe Blizzard rushes to make decisions like this because they fundamentally don't value free speech in the same way that I do. But I don't know. And you fucking know that I am. Did we talk about actually the most frustrating thing about this for me last week? I don't think we actually talked about the thing that is most frustrating. Or one of the most frustrating parts, which is the internal rule that they used to do this with Blitzchung was set up as a sort of broad, or an analysis says, it is set up as a rule to be able to go after people using hate speech and slurs and using their time in front of the broadcast mic to actually do gross, terrible shit that is not just like politically heated or like has some content to it, but that is gross. And that the reason you don't have like a list of specific terms is because they understand that if someone wants to get on a microphone and use hate speech or send a dog whistle out there, they need a rule that's broad enough to legislate that and regulate it. And so it's extra fucked to be like, here is a rule that's meant to protect marginalized communities and meant to like, keep what is said on mic be not directly harmful in a traumatizing way to an audience, and use that to regulate political speech. It sucks. I don't know. We all draw lines in different places, but like, yeah.
It's just another. I feel like another symptom of these companies getting so big. At a certain point, people will make decisions based on whoever made that rule could have been totally right, and then like the person execute using it at the other end like has totally different values in mind.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, who knows how those decisions get made across like those offices from on different ends of the earth. Like, how quickly do things go through approval processes with the offices in the U.S. versus what sort of autonomy those offices in China have?
Yeah.
And even then, we for this story in particular, we have focused on the Blizzard part of Activision Blizzard, but like it's also worth keeping in mind, like that it is Activision Blizzard. Like Blizzard projects a notion of autonomy, and to some degree that is true, but in the sense that it's a different, it's a big division within Activision Blizzard. Yeah. But like, in our news stories, we like made the decision to take out the Activision part because this seems specifically part of Blizzard as a company, or sort of a sub company within Activision Blizzard. But like, let's not forget the bigger picture that they are a giant corporate whole. With and that that only exasperates the things that Cado is speaking to, in which like fault decision making is just so purposely opaque, because they don't want you to understand where things are made, how they are like it's obfuscated for a reason, because it allows them to pick and choose the notion of transparency. And to some degree, it is value like. There's a world where this actually came from the Activision side, but you know what? It's valuable for Activision Blizzard for all the heat to stay on the Blizzard side, so your eye stays away from everything else. It's mildly conspiratorial, but like it's not. That would not be ridiculous for corporate politics, in which they are always worried and managing, their image, in so much as it services their, projected and real power on a larger level. Yeah. Hey, Google Stadia is launching November 19th.
Founder pack launching, right? Like the thing where you have to buy the $200.
They're also announcing I guess that's sold out, or they stopped selling it. I don't know which. And they're also doing a Premier Edition, which is $129 and gets you the same thing. I did not realize, I'm sure I knew this at some point, that it's a different Destiny 2. It doesn't play with the other versions.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
you got the cross save,
so you can take take your character. You can take your character and play it there, but you're only going to play with other Stadia
on the PC servers or something.
Nope, it is on the Stadia only servers.
You know what? That means you can get.
And they lost
world's first. If you wanted to, Cado. Hop on that Stadia shit.
Shit. God damn it.
You know how to do those raids.
Yeah, I can get through world first Stadia clear.
Patrick, we need you to write 5 people you meet in Stadia Destiny.
Yeah.
You know what? I am
so curious.
Oh my God.
I'm pre-ordered, baby. Look, if I'm gonna blow through my data cap, let's go. I've already had the discussion with the wife. Like, that $50, boop, boop, it's gone. Bye bye.
God. Anything else this week? I dipped briefly into Mistover. I'll try to put some more time into that, which is like a Darkest Dungeon meets Etrian Odyssey type thing that Rowan Kaiser is really into. So I'm going to try to put some more time into that. I want to shout out a couple ports this week.
Yeah.
6 Ages, which is the spiritual successor to King of Dragon Pass, one of my all-time faves, is out on PC now. I played that last year on iPad, and it's great on iPad, but I'm very excited to try to put some more time into it on PC because it is nice to have a mouse for that game instead of just a touch interface. And then 80 Days is now on Switch, and I put a little bit of time into that.
That's right.
I love 80 Days.
I never played that, and I really
You should
want
play
to
80 Days.
get back. I know.
As far as a game that has a really dope world that is very literary in its writing, 80 Days is fantastic. I really, really love it.
Nice.
Really great, like post-colonial steampunk, like takes on the parts of steampunk that I like don't like very much. And so that was that I'm happy to hopefully we'll find another audience on the Switch that missed it previously.
Nice.
Hey, while I was idling away during some conversation I was not paying attention to, I was reading this review of the new Google Pixel.
Yeah.
Which I've always had iPhones, just it's whatever.
Yeah,
it works with all the devices in my house. I don't have like super strong feelings on it. But holy shit, man, the neural network, yada, yada, yada. The short version is the recorder app in the new Google Pixel does real-time transcriptions of your recordings.
Fuck off.
Wow.
Fuck.
Wow.
No way.
God,
That
privacy
is-
invasion's going to hit a whole new level.
You know what? If I'm talking to Corey Balrog and I can save myself half an hour, like go to the cloud, E3 interview. Like we're good. Like I'm all right, actually. That sounds, transcripts are
They're a lot of work.
the bane of my existence. They're a lot of work. They suck ass. But man,
Twice
and
a week. It's a lot.
Shout outs,
Yeah.
shout outs to a thing I'm very happy exists is the Friends at the Table transcript team. There's a group of people who transcribe that. We pay them. It is transcript_fat FATT on Twitter that I never shout out on this podcast because why would I? But as people who've complained about transcripts on this podcast a lot, let me tell you, those motherfuckers put in work.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's like 8 speakers on people speaking in a Friends at the Table episode, and those episodes are like 3 hours long, and someone will sit down and transcribe that shit, and shout outs to them because that has made Friends at the Table a lot more accessible for folks. And a lot of, honestly, they have saved me a lot of time because it's like, oh wow, what the fuck did I say 3 years ago in some game? Being able to quickly search a transcript is great. So shout outs to the Friends at the Table transcript team for doing that. Any final thoughts as we wrap up? Here's the thing, real quick. I want people to send questions in to gaming@vice.com because I suspect we're not going to have
Friday. I think Fridays might be light.
It's going to be light.
I think we're all gonna be playing Redacted.
Yes.
And that will change next week. We'll be able to
Talk about some
of that
Yeah.
stuff.
So please.
Oh, I'll be able to talk about one on Friday.
Okay.
One of the games I'm playing, I can talk about in a preview capacity on Friday.
Okay.
But yes, I think we should err on the side of a Q&A.
Yeah. So please, gaming@vice.com. Send in your questions for the bucket. I think that's it. I certainly have nothing left in me after all that. Austin_Walker on Twitter is where you can find me. Cado, how about you?
I was gonna say Life is Strange is good.
Oh, you're getting back into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went back.
We do like a.
Oh, did you play that 4th episode?
No.
He's on 2, I think.
I went back, did
Oh,
Captain Spirit and 2. And
Let's-
just
let's-
finished 2 last night.
Let's put some time to that.
Because the 5th episode comes out in
December, right?
a couple of weeks. Yeah.
We should all
I need
play
to play
that.
the 4th.
Yeah.
And I want to get a bigger update from you on that stuff
Sure.
on Friday because we'll need content for this podcast. Patrick,
I'm gonna keep playing.
how about you on Twitter?
At Patrick Klepek.
Rob,
At Rob Zachney.
Rob, are you in on?
No.
You're out from here to go to ParadoxCon, right?
Yep.
That'll be fun. I want to hear about.
So I'll be
all that
back
shit.
middle of next week.
All right, exciting time. I'm excited to
Enjoy.
hear that. Yeah, definitely. You can follow everything we do, twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. Shout outs to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. My waypoint.zone domain just got re-upped like today.
Oh.
Because 3 years ago, it's like when we decided Waypoint, I was like, shit, we can't get waypoint.com. That's some sort of financial services company.
Yeah.
Let me pick up Waypoint.zone. So that is still around. Waypoint.zone/BOEN for more on Bowen. I don't have a throw. I don't have because it's Tuesday. It's like the whole week isn't in front of us anymore.
Yeah.
But you know what? I still hope that you have a good rest of your week.
Yeah.
We'll be back on Friday to talk more about whatever we scrape together. Please send us emails. Please. Also, send us ones that you're like, what's the best sandwich in the world? Like, really just let us give
fuck us up.
fuck us up. You know? That stuff is very fun. So please send us some of that stuff in. Until then, we are all going to go do other shit. Go play Redacted. Peace.
Just reminds me I gotta finish Control.
Yeah, me too. Ugh.
I'm starting to think Jameis Winston might not be a good quarterback.
Yeah, okay, Rob. Thanks. I'm glad that NFL analyst Rob Zachney finally
I'm starting to think it's never going to click for him, Patrick.
Yeah, he threw an interception on the first play of the game.
Ouch.
And the last.
But you understand, like, I get the allure because he'll have and he's had two of them this year where it's like, yeah, man, be that dude more. Also, did you see the refs rig a game against the Lions last night?
No.
Incredible.
I didn't get
happened?
much chance to watch any football this weekend because I was just I did the math and realized how many fucking games I need to play. And so I basically
that's funny because I did that math when you committed to both those things and you were like, I'm good, I got this. I'm like, yeah, okay, Rob. So I like the
well, I made the adult choice of not watching football.
Yeah, no,
so that I could liberate company town workers from themselves.
There were two phantom, I don't know what you call hands to the face, basically like when a defender's coming through and you can grab the under the collar. Yeah, you can't grab under the mask. And Trey Flowers was a very good defender on the Lions, who I think was on the Patriots before. Yeah, just got called once on what would have been then a third down, huge sack, fourth down, Lions get the ball back, kill a bunch of clock. Instead, they get a face mask, which is an automatic first down, 10-yard penalty. And it happened again when the Packers should have been kicking a field goal at the goal line. And Booger, that complete dipshit who does the Monday Night Football analysis for ESPN.
Oh, I kind of like Boog.
He's earnest in a way that he gives you no insightful analysis, but he does get excited sometimes in a way that's all right, Booger. But that's about it as far as I can go with Booger. But man, he just in a way that you don't usually see the announcers sort of lose their cool over even really egregious miscalls or incorrect calls. Just spent 5 minutes just play that replay again. Play that goddamn replay again. That's not a hands to the face.
I love when the positional biases of the commentators begin to really come into play. It's
sure. Yeah.
Boog can be non-committal for a million things, but as an ex-defender, when he sees that, he's wait, now, hold on. Excuse me, what is happening here?
The Lions lost 22 to 20 or 23 to 22 on a field goal at the end, and they should have won that game.
This is the NFL favors star quarterbacks. That is its real bias. That yes. Their team's doing well is what the NFL will sort of tip the scales on. And I think that's the real root of why New Orleans was so incensed they didn't get that call last year is because the rule is they get that call.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's probably true.
Global hand washing day.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be doing.
Shout out to Pontius Pilate.
God damn it!
The king stay the king. You know. Y'all ready to clap?
Yeah, let me pull up the website. Okay.
Let's do 14. All right. Rob, did you give me a list? What are you up to?
Everything's embargoed.
Everything's embargoed for you? Okay.
Redacted.
Yeah, it's anything I encountered through this review code I can't talk about till the 22nd.
Yeah, I also have one of those. What are you? You're on both. You're on 2 embargo joints, right? You're on both. Okay, cool.
Just Iron Manning.
Love it. Love to hear it.
Ugh.
All right.